There's Larry.
Hello and welcome to the June 12th meeting of the Portsmouth Historic District Commission. We have our one member coming in right now. We are just barely a quorum. Now we're 6, so we should be good. I'll introduce everybody. We're missing a couple members, but on my far right is Larry Booz.
Good evening.
He's just walked in. He's our
Catch my
alternate,
breath.
but you will be voting all night.
Okay, sounds good.
And then we have Martin Ryan.
Good evening.
All right, Vice Chair Margot Doring.
Good evening.
I'm Reagan Rudig, Chair. We have Isaac Gilbo from the Planning Department,
Good evening.
John Wyckoff,
Hello.
and David Adams.
Good evening.
All right, so the board's action in these matters has been deemed to be quasi-judicial in nature. If any person believes any member of the board has a conflict of interest, that issue should be raised at this point or it will be deemed waived. All right, so it looks like we're okay. We don't have to potentially go into a non-quorum number here. We do have a few requests to postpone. I don't know, I can go ahead and do those now since one of them is an administrative approval. 135 Market Street, our second administrative approval, has already had a request to postpone, I guess, to next month. And then we have public hearing, new business number 2, petition of Mark M. Bodie, owner for property located at 121 State Street, unit number 2. And number 5, the petition of North Church of Portsmouth, owner for property located at 2 Congress Street. And I believe that's it. So could I get a motion to postpone all of those to next month?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right. With that out of the way, I will have Isaac then present our one administrative approval.
All right. Good evening. We do have just one administrative approval item to get through tonight. It is at 113 Bow Street. And essentially, the applicant here is looking to install a series of these metal Boston top style bollards and with a chain and a mix of these concrete vertical posts with chain to demarcate public space from private space. As you can see, let me just get the image up a little bit higher here. So the black bollards here would be located where they are noted in yellow along the brick walkway, whereas the vertical granite posts would be located right along Bow Street here and their parking lot currently. In addition, the current overlook at the property is sort of deteriorating. It's no longer code compliant, so they are hoping to redo in the same footprint, that same overlook. However, they would be looking to use a black metal style fence as shown up here at the top. And I believe the applicant is here if there's anything that I've missed in the application, or if the commission has any more specific questions on the type of bollards or...
Yeah, hi, Dave Mansfield. I'm the resident and president of the Condo Association. And this is being done in conjunction with the city. The city is replacing the sidewalk.
Yep.
And Peter Rice has requested us to do surface-mounted posts. We talked about doing the granite along there with a tight parking lot and the likelihood that a plow will probably crack it and then have it. So that's why we've gone to this. This is, I think that picture there is at Harvard University. It's a Boston, it's classic Boston style. So we'll have the base plates custom to put on the new granite that will be installed along there. Now the overlook is actually, if that gets replaced, it'll be done by the city. It's actually in really bad shape right now, and it's closed down. So that's not part of 113, but we're working closely with Peter Britz, Peter Rice, the rest of the.
Okay.
But what we have right now is a lot of people, they walk out there and then they walk through the parking lot. It's very tight, and it's just a safety concern. So, and we just want to spruce the place up a little bit.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions?
Could I just make a comment?
Sure.
I am so glad to see this particular little project started. I think I've mentioned it probably 5 times in my HDC career about that this, is a public right-of-way that nobody knows about. And because it is so deteriorated, it's dangerous now, but this is a great thing you're doing. Thank you.
I'm glad that the property owners and the city are working together to get this done. So, all right, if there are no questions or comments, then I'll read a
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right.
You want to stay?
Okay, so
People.
moving on to public hearings, old business. We have the petition of Daniel McGreevy, owner, for property located at 425 Islington Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, replace 21 windows on the structure, as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 144 as Lot 32 and lies within the Character District 4L2 and Historic Districts. Who is here to talk about this project?
The window.
Owner Dan McGreevy, joined by a trusty team of Home Depot.
My name's Jason Giard. I'm a district manager for Home Depot.
Okay, great.
And James Burke, who's a member of my team.
Hi, welcome.
Welcome.
All right, so it's been a little while. Why don't you bring us up to date on,
Yeah, so we're looking to replace the 21 windows. The front of the house and the side, we're going to use this Geldwin all-wood window, okay? It's got the external grid. It's going to have one bar on the bottom. So, and then the rest of the house would, in the back and that side would be vinyl, and that would have the 1/1, the match.
Okay.
That's what we're looking for.
okay. And do we have we do have some specifications for this? Yeah, we do.
There's some in the packet.
right.
We've got a few more that were just brought to the meeting as well. And then I just didn't know if you just wanted to point out just the couple of windows that at this time are not proposed to be changed.
And I'm sorry, you'll have to take.
You need to bring the
You
microphone.
need to bring the microphone with
With
you
you.
if you're walking over there. And I'll just warn you, please don't touch the screen.
Just like the Tonight Show.
Yes.
Thanks.
There you go.
I mean, we were prepared to do, if we have to do them all, we'll do them all. So we're prepared.
Excellent.
Originally, we were going to leave out this one here, and then this one, and that one for the wood. So there would be 7 out of the 10. But again, if we need to do them, we'll do them all. And in the back, it was, a couple, like this one here is real tiny. We weren't, and this one, we weren't going to do. And, there might have been one other. No, you can't see it in this picture, on the other side. But, like I said, if we have to do them all, we'll do them all.
Okay. All right.
And again, all this here would be the Geldwin 5500 series, all wood. Going to come primed, and the customer's going to paint it. And then this side, again, would be the Geldwin.
Right. Okay, great. Any questions? Yeah, John?
Yes, is the siding being changed?
No,
No.
not at this time.
So do you foresee, are these replacement windows or are these new construction?
Those are new, those are replacement.
Those are replacement with a casement on them?
With casing, yes.
Or is that a casing or is that kind of a
It's
stop?
just a frame. It's more like a stop,
Yeah,
just for the sample.
yeah,
It will not have the same exact stop
yeah.
when it goes in.
Can you discuss screens? That's another thing, screens.
This is, again, just a sample, so it didn't come with a screen.
Good.
But the screen will be a full screen,
No.
not the full screen. We can make that change very easily.
Can we make it a half screen? That's
Yeah,
our
we can do
our
half. We can do half.
baseline.
Absolutely. That's a simple
Okay.
spec change. We haven't ordered any of the windows yet, so we can order them with a
That's
half
good.
screen if that's what's approved.
Great.
Personally, myself, you'll get some other opinions, maybe, but I would prefer to see all the windows changed out. haphazard here. Maybe this window will still have a storm window on it, and maybe this one won't, and then this is a brand-new one, and I would prefer to see the windows.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if we have
Thank
to
you
do them
very
all, we'll do them all.
Yeah, and the siding, I know it doesn't look like that anymore. I'm not actually sure if it's a
I'll pass
painted.
around, you have a few.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
kind of a Google
Just better.
Yeah, I'll
street
get-
image from
that's
whenever
fine.
they
It does look-
did that the first time.
More updated than that now. However, it's still vinyl siding.
Did you
Once
clean it, or what'd you do?
it's blue now. I honestly,
Oh.
it didn't look like that when I purchased it, so I'm not
And
actually
they
sure.
must have
if it was-
changed it since this.
So I'm not sure if it was completely resided or if they just repainted the vinyl, but it could be that it's new, or I don't know how new, but more updated than that image shows. I'd say if we have to do all the windows, I just want to get started with the project because the tenants are asking me to get better windows. They get stuck and everything, so I'm happy to do that. The two windows he pointed out on like the left side on the bottom, those are two like really tiny windows. I don't feel like they necessarily need to be updated because they're bathrooms and they're just very small. And then there's a tiny little this narrow in a bathroom as well.
Yeah.
So those are the three that I was just hoping to just. There's no issues with those because they're just tiny little bathroom ones, but everything and the grids wouldn't fit on those anyway.
Right.
Yeah,
No.
so one of this one here, if we did replace that bathroom one, the manufacturer, they don't put a grid in that because it's so small already.
No, it would be,
No, you wouldn't want to put a grid in it.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you knew.
Yeah, we know. Thank you.
All
So-
the other ones would have grids.
Thank you very much.
go ahead, Margot.
Well, I was just going to ask other members of the commission who know more than I do. This is not a brand that we see people come very often to suggest. It's usually Green Mountain or Marvin Elevator, one of those. Have we seen this window before, or is there a reason we're not seeing it in other applications?
Yeah.
It's fairly new, the Geldwin. I mean, for us, we haven't had an all wood option
Right.
until recently.
Okay,
So I don't know if this has been out for Geldwin for a while or not, but for Home Depot, we haven't had that option.
okay.
Jumbo's been around for a few decades, but more historical commissions are asking for a 100% wood window. So we're starting to see implementation of more wood windows across all manufacturers and across even our competitors. This is the one that we decided to carry starting in January of this year, just to satisfy the needs of historical commissions.
Okay. And is it the grid pattern, you said it's real on the outside, is it a simulated bar in between?
Correct. It'll be a simulated divided light to give it that appearance of the
Real.
individual panes.
Martin, did you?
No, I find the Geldwin a decent product, and I can support this application.
Okay, great. So, I mean,
All good.
all good? All right, so I just want to clarify, the front side facing Islington.
Islington, and then the side facing one on the street was
on the
Dover
street. Okay,
Street.
great. So the street facing sides will be the Geldwin, and then the others are just, and for the
The
vinyl,
driveways.
the other two sides that you're using, the vinyl windows for, and those are going to be 1/1 with no grid in between, so it's
No, they'll
basically.
have
No?
grids.
We were asked the last communication we have for all the grid patterns to match.
Yes.
So all the grid patterns will match.
Great, that's fine. I think you had said it was going to be 1/1 before, so that's why I was concerned. So,
One bar over one bar.
gotcha, and that's a 2/2. Okay, all right, great.
Everybody has a different way of saying it.
Right, okay, good. I'm just clarifying.
Grids or
'cause
windows,
It
yeah.
caught me up there. Okay,
I like that.
great.
Wonderful.
All right, so if no other comments or questions, I'll open it up to the public to see if there's anybody who has any comments or questions on this. All right, seeing no one rise, nobody online. We'll close the public hearing and wait a motion, hopefully with a stipulation for a half screen.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll move that we approve this application with the stipulation, the use of half screens, and that the Islington and, what's the side street?
Dover Street.
Dover Street's sides are the wood Geldwin, and that the other sides, if you wish, can be vinyl. We'd be happy if they were wood also. That's up to you. Any other stipulations by anybody? No, okay,
Second.
very good. Discussion before findings? Findings of fact, conservation and enhancement of property values. I think that this certainly will make the building lovely and workable again for the tenants. And compatibility of design with surrounding properties. This does not really change the current design of this building, so. All right, there we go.
Good, thank you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Vote chair votes aye. Thank you so much.
There you go.
Thanks for
Thank you, everybody.
And
All right.
Go Celtics, woohoo.
All right, public hearing B, petition of Nyla LLC, owner for property located at 324 Maplewood Avenue, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, replace all siding on the structure, repair exterior stairs, corner boards, and window trim as needed, and replace the storefront windows as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 141 as Lot 1 and lies within the Character District 4L2 and Historic Districts. All right, we have an online again,
I'm not.
presenter, or is it?
I'm the owner, but
Oh,
Oh,
please approach.
I'm not seeing Anne Marie on right now. I think she said she may
Please.
have another.
yes, Nicole Absher, I'm the owner. Anne Marie, who presented last week, had a prior engagement, but I think she's hopefully going to pop on soon. But I can start at least.
Yes, please.
I think you guys all were looking for some information on the existing windows. They're not original to the house. They were replaced in the 1950s, and they have metal jambs. And so they're very similar to what I replaced in my house back in 2019. So I'm just looking to get rid of a lot of rot that has taken place over the years. Windows, looking for Anderson 2/2, bottom screens only.
Okay, great.
And it is the Anderson, the 400 series, the
Yes.
wood, right? Is that okay? Perfect. Yep.
Wood.
new construction or replacement?
Are they different in Anderson? Go ahead and ask.
Are these replacement windows that just plug in to the opening, or are these new construction windows?
I believe they're replacement windows, but if Anne Marie pops on, she can confirm.
One thing I was going to mention, if they were new construction, that means that you have to do all the trim on the
Right.
outside.
Well, I have to.
Again.
Yeah, well, sorry to interrupt. I have a feeling we have to do a lot of the trim anyway,
Yeah.
because it's.
So
it is
I
rotting.
feel that it's important on this building that you duplicate that window sill,
Absolutely.
which is very thick sill for that
Yeah.
style house, but there it is.
I love being in the historic district. I love these older homes, even though a lot of them been stripped of the historic parts. But I would like to restore it the way it
Excellent.
is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, any other questions?
And
I think they are replacement units. When I look at the specs here, it says
Yeah.
inserts, and
Yeah.
I had used some of these years ago in my own house, so I'm 95% sure you got replacements, so.
Yes.
Okay, great.
so just the replacement of the storefront windows.
Yes.
Your plan is to take them out and put them back, and they look exactly the same, just take out the plate glass and put them back in with the same trim?
Yeah, yes, for right now, the cabinet shop's staying,
Yeah.
so I'm just trying to get them in, a good, clean, safe manner. I might come back to you all down the road, or maybe in the next couple months, to try and, if there's any improvements I'd like to do, but for right now, I'm just looking to get everything whole and safe,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yes, definitely. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Anyone from the public going to speak? Online?
I do see Anne Marie on.
Oh, okay, good.
Hi, Anne Marie. How are you?
Hi, good. I'm so sorry that I was having issues logging in, and I just got in and I just heard Nicole finish, so I didn't catch
Good timing.
much. But I'm ready to answer any questions that would pertain to me for sure.
I
Thank you.
think that we
Yeah.
had all of our questions answered, but if there's
I
any
think
more.
we're okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Wonderful. Yep, she's very versed and knowledgeable, so I'm glad she was able to come tonight.
Yes. No, we very much appreciate the extra information about the windows. We
Yes.
just want to know that before we.
And I appreciate the question, you
Yeah.
know, but thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, we're all good. All right, I will close the public hearing and wait a motion.
Okay.
I'll make the
David, did I
motion.
hear you?
I'll
John?
make a motion that we approve this
I'll second.
as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, so it is consistent with the special and defining character of the surrounding properties and compatible design and relation of historic and architectural value of existing structures. Its compatibility with innovative technology, and that's about it.
Okay, great, thanks. Anything else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you very much. You're all set. All right. Okay, moving right along. Now we're into public hearings, new business. Number 1, petition of Patrick Wood and Chantal Marchand, Revocable Trust owners for property located at 294 Marcy Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, the removal and replacement of all rotted siding and trim, as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 102 as Lot 76 and lies within the General Residence B and Historic Districts. Who is here to present?
Hi, I'm Chuck DeBlois representing them.
Hi, how are you?
CED Builders. Well, thank you.
Good.
So they brought me in to fix like a little bit of siding around the gutter, and it turned into a giant pile of fallow. The entire back corners of the house needed to be removed and replaced. All of the siding on around both of those corners was nailed to nothing before. The house was basically, all the sidings held together by caulking and 300 years worth of paint. So one taking stuff apart, there was nothing to nail to in several places to even replace things. We had to rebuild for the full corners. As you can see, the siding, you touch it and it comes apart, tons of cracks. So everything we've touched so far has turned into a giant project, which is why I'm here now instead of just painting this wonderful house.
Look at the corner bead.
I'm sorry, I missed that last comment.
Everything that we've touched so far has turned into a giant project, and it's no longer a painting of a house, right? So we've had to really take a ton of the siding off of the house to find where we can even nail to going forward. So we'll end up replacing virtually the whole house worth of siding by the time we're done to get it to even look right. Otherwise, you'll have like totally different types of siding in different places of the house. Also, there was a lot of the sill trim was affected in both corners. The sill itself was okay, but there were a number of places where the sill trim had been replaced before with inaccurate pieces. You'd get like a piece this wide where the normal one is with that beveled top edge. So we were able to replace that with the right kind of siding at the end too, at the sill trims.
Any questions?
What is the request?
Well,
If
the
it's a
request is
replacement,
just
fine.
absolution, I think, because they started.
Yeah.
They've already ripped up and started the.
My issue with this, because I'm pretty much, I think I'm the reason that they're here at all. My issue is that this house had old clapboards on it.
Yeah.
You suggested 300 years of paint. That may be a little bit of an exaggeration.
It was.
But certainly a couple hundred years of paint, or thereabouts anyway. There were some clapboards in the building that were still, I would say, part of the original fields of clapboards. Been a lot of work done to the building over time. There were clapboards that were scarfed instead of butt jointed. The majority of the clapboards, I think, were square edge clapboards, crisp edge clapboards. And the exposure on the clapboards were much smaller to the weather, as in a early 19th century manner.
3 inches maybe?
I would say, if I didn't have a measure, but it looked like something like that. As I'm sure the commissioner knows, that there's every building, every period of buildings had different kinds of clapboards, depending on the technology of the day. Back when they used to make them by hand, back when you had them on primitive sawmills. Today we have cedar resawn clapboards from God knows where. But they all look different. And they all tell a story about the building. This building I'm old enough to remember in the late 70s when there was repair work being done to the building, and the people that were doing that work were being very responsive to the coursing and species of clapboards on the building and trying to match it. That all changed, and you were not replacing in a style or in kind of the materials that were there. And you just went ahead and did it anyway. And I feel like we're losing something because the clapboarding on the building was part of the signature of the building. It wasn't a mongrel of something that happened. This was pretty pointedly, looked very much like the old building that it was. And I believe that that's being erased.
Yes, John?
Whenever David gives a comment, I always feel I'm smarter afterwards. I just wish that I would remember it, days down the line.
You can call anytime, John.
Yeah, I can call anytime. What I'm wondering is, why are they here? This is replacing in kind.
It's replacement of materials in kind, but
It is.
I believe that,
Wood clapboards, this is what it's all about.
yeah.
I'm happy to try and replicate those first few courses so that we can keep that styling.
We very often, when there are projects like this where it's wholesale, repair and replacement,
Yeah.
we do often have them come just so that we can have this type of discussion where we're like, okay, let's make sure that we don't lose the historic character of the
Yeah,
house.
my apologies. This is my first historic
Sure.
touch, so
You
Sure.
didn't-
So,
Could I just make another comment? So he's already started, the damage has been done. What I'm noticing on the pictures is that besides the corners being shot and such, is that, the sheathing on one gable end, you can see some of the sheathing might have been too thin, and so they padded it out with wood shingles and such. Something I've done myself, but so I can see that you're probably going to bump into a lot of sheathing repairs.
yeah.
And my only comment is, I noticed in your very close photograph there, is that it appears to me that window band molding couldn't be original, so it must be a really close replication of original. And that is the photo that shows the windowsill. And
Oh, yeah.
that band. So I'm hoping that you continue using that band rather than go and purchase 8069 or something out of the catalog, you know what I'm talking about?
You mean this piece?
Yes,
right here?
that band right there. That's the guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not gonna change. We're not even
Right.
really touching.
We can't, nobody at home who's
that
all the millions of people watching right now.
It's just
tonight.
something
Yeah.
that I happened to notice.
That piece, I mean, there was, on the entire house, there was only one 3-foot section of that trim that needed to be touched, and it was replaced exactly like the rest of the house.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
so I just want to be sure I understand David's comment about the type of material that existed before and the material that's going on now. And what I think I heard David say is that with the type of materials that are being put on the building now, we've lost all of the history or the place in time that was previously identifiable with this building. So the scarfing and the way the boards were cut and so on is now disappeared. David, is that the
That's
concern?
absolutely on the nose.
Okay. So how much of the new siding have you installed on this building?
2 walls.
The
A back wall and a wall
And the one-
inside of an alley.
The downside.
Yeah.
Is there a call for having the street side, the two street sides done differently? More historically accurate? Is that what you're thinking, David, or are you just saying?
I wasn't thinking that. I'm really not interested in creating a mongrel of a building, something that never, ever existed. And I don't think that that's an appropriate thing for us to try to create, I guess. I called this one in before they had torn all of the clapboards off the building. The wheels of the city policies took about a month. And it was tough to watch. And this is where we are. It's just to me, it's another just out and out loss. And I disagree with Mr. Wyckoff completely. That the clapboarding and its materials and construction are unique to a moment in time, and protecting that is as important as protecting the fenestration of the building. And it's gone, lost. Not happy.
Right. Well, so what do we want to ask of the applicant here?
That was my original question.
Yeah.
What can we do to correct this?
Right, how to sort of repair the situation. I don't know if it's, so there are no clapboards left on the
Right.
other
Yeah.
walls.
So it's new clapboard.
It's going to be new clapboards. I know, I would love to have at least seen the exposure be similar. But if you've already put up two walls that have the 4-inch exposure, it would be weird to have the other two.
I'm happy to go back and fix the exposure, at least on the bottom edge, for the first 10 courses to make sure that it's closer.
Yeah.
That's kind of fake looking.
Yeah, it's not really a totally authentic. Looks like it's a look now, but.
Okay.
Yeah,
So there are really only two solutions here. One, ask the applicant to rip everything off and start with the proper materials and the proper way of installing it, or just write it off. Yep.
pretty much.
The final picture in the packet, so that wall is completely removed. The one that shows it,
Yeah, the gable end.
yeah, the gable, so that's completely stripped off now.
And replaced.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, what's the spacing on that clapboard that was on there? What was the spacing? Was it 3, 3.5, 4,
It was about 4 1/4
4.25?
at the main area, and then down toward the bottom, it decreased rapidly down to maybe 1.5 to
Okay.
1 3/4.
Just a quick question. Was there a building permit pulled for this?
There's a building permit.
Yes.
There is a building, so
It initially was a few repairs that were replacement in kind.
Correct.
but not for the total replacement of the
Right.
sign. Okay.
That's correct. It was initially just minor rot repair around just where the gutters were located.
Yeah.
So we went forward with that. And, as mentioned during the discovery process, more rot was discovered.
I think a flare should always go up whenever a building permit is pulled in the historic district.
It does.
Things like this.
No, it does, and Isaac does see them, and as long as they are, he checks to make sure they fall into the exemptions. And minor repairs in kind are an exemption. We don't have to see every single, I gotta
Right.
replace this one corner board.
I know, but we should learn that with these old homes, that pulling a few boards off and replacing them is likely going to, get us into a situation like this. I'd say 80% of the time. Anyway. we need to do better.
What I notice on this gabled end, and that's why I was asking about it, on the left-hand side, about halfway up the courses of clapboard that are still there, there's X's. So did that mean that those were ones you were going to remove and the surrounding clapboards were still good? Or
X's?
is that just, am I just
If you zoom in.
looking at some mark and it's not really an X?
Those little white marks.
To the left of the bottom window.
Yeah, the bush.
There's a series of 4 X's.
Before we touched them.
Okay. But the surrounding boards, did they need to be replaced, or were they?
Yeah, when we began to sand the boards, when we began to sand off so we could smooth out the old paint so we could put on a fresh coat, the disintegration of many of the boards happened. Or they were cracked when we were trying to pull up boards to be able to snake a new board behind it, slip a new board behind it. Everything was cracking and coming apart.
Well, this is maybe a good learning moment for you and your crew. That
100%.
you shouldn't sand clapboards. You should just scrape them.
Yeah.
But
Everybody sands them now.
I know, I've seen, it's grinding, really, it's awful.
Yeah, it's a thing now.
All right, well, we need to move forward somehow with this. So
Public?
I can open it up to the public, and then we can try and figure out some way to come to a conclusion. So is there anyone from the public who wants to speak for or against this application? Anyone online? Okay, all right, I'll close the public hearing, and somebody hopefully make a motion.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve this as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
Is there any discussion about correcting to try to get it, the exposures back to where they were, at least in the first
We have to have
dozen courses?
We have to have a second to then have that discussion.
I'll second it.
Yeah, we could make that as an amendment or whatever.
So say it again, Martin, in a way that we can put into the,
Well, I want to, for discussion,
Yeah.
I don't want to waste the applicant's time, or if it's not going to mean anything, but if it will go a long way to get us closer to being more closer to authenticity than what's going on now, I'd like to see a little discussion on that.
I mean,
We need a discussion, or do you need to make that as
well, let's have the discussion. I think he wants a
We've had-
discussion before making the actual.
I don't want to dictate the
have
if
you
it's
done the
not going to
front?
mean anything, I don't want
Right.
to simply make it a stipulation.
Okay, Margot?
So in my analysis of this, the applicant was given permission to replace in kind, and that hasn't happened. And to ask the applicant to take everything off and start and do it the way it should have been done, while I would love to do that, seems a little bit of overkill. But I do think that we can remedy some of the situation, if not replacing the material in kind, the style of the installation in kind. And that would be to fix the amount of exposure, the dimensions of the exposure in the lower section, and any other fixable points that maybe David can bring forward. I know you don't want to mongrelize, but in some ways I think it's better to at least have a certain amount of replacement in kind happen as we can.
And that was a good question. So you haven't started on the facade yet,
Right.
or any of the things. So could at least that facade, any of the major facades, have the 3-inch exposure all the way up, like some of the photos? Or
What facade are you talking about? The front?
the front?
Right. Have you done the front?
No.
No, that's it.
So
The front doesn't have any clapboards on it at the moment.
right, I would be satisfied if he would do the front with that 3-inch exposure. I'm not necessarily wanting him to go back and do the 2 and then 2 1/4 and 2 1/2 and then 3 and all that, because it just,
That actually wasn't the condition on the building anyway. This
Yeah.
building was, that story about clapboards varying in size is it's a bedtime story. It was created in the 70s. Clapboards, when this building was built, varied in sections up the building between the sill and the windowsill of the first floor, between the windowsill on the first floor and the window head on the first floor. Clapboards were in ranges, 5 different ranges up the building, and each of those ranges were rationalized to one size, always increasing, so that the clapboards, when you got to the top, were the widest of any. But this varying every course another eighth of an inch or something is a silly thing. I can demonstrate, I have photographs of the clapboards that were on the building if you wanted to describe the buildings being re-sided. You've seen them, I think.
Well, yeah, you sent them. And,
I did.
And Isaac has it up right there.
Yeah.
So you could take those photographs and count how many clapboards and determine the dimensions of them. I didn't measure. I didn't think it was my job to do that.
No, but it seems like those are 4 inch. He's gone 4 inch.
On the
left
left-hand
side.
side, yes. Yeah.
But the front, if it could be 3,
Right, if you could take one of these photos and try it as best you can to replicate that exposure. At least it's.
So do you want that exposure for the entire wall, or?
You see what you're working against here?
Yeah.
It's not getting through.
Well,
just do it.
it's going to have to be the whole wall,
Yeah.
not just the bottom, because as you can see here, the historic clapboards were that same small exposure.
Okay.
And I would also like to say, this is really not, I mean, we can't sit around and blame ourselves, what did we do wrong, or anything like this. The situation is he got into a repair situation, and before you know it, as frequently does happen, you get into a whole pile, and a pile of you-know-what. The only thing that I could say is similar to putting cementitious clapboards on colonial homes would be a tremendous caveat from the building, from our staff that says, these things don't work really well on old sheathing, and you're going to bump into some problems here, and if you're going to have to replace all the clapboards, then you should come before the HDC. But it's just, it happened, that's all.
No, we don't need to play
You
any
know-
blame game.
Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
The only thing I'd throw in is you're going to change the spacing on the front or whatever, then it's going to be different from the other. And if, just looking at the photo that's on the screen right now, so anybody standing on a corner of the house right now, at least the lines match up, the new ones from the side and the old ones from the front. I guess that's the front,
Somebody
the
was
blue.
going to say that.
But if you change the spacing on the front, then they're not going to match up. They're not going to line up.
Oh, well.
Well,
This is the sausage that the stories are made of.
It is.
Yeah, okay.
Just pointing that out.
all right, so.
Thank you.
So we have one motion on, did we want to amend it at all?
And the motion is
Motion
to
is
make the front.
the motion currently as it stands is just to approve as presented.
No, I would prefer to see a motion at the front be more in tune exposure-wise to what it was.
I agree,
Accept that?
yes, I do.
Okay,
I
great.
accept that.
So the motion is that at least the front facade will match as much as possible the exposure to what it was originally.
Okay.
Good?
And the same can happen on the side that's against the meeting house,
Oh, good,
Okay,
because it's untouched as well.
great.
that's good.
All right. Is there any other parts of this that we need to, the trim, all the trim will match exactly in kind?
Yep.
Everything like that? Okay. All right, great. Fine. All in favor? Oh, wait, no, we need to find.
Compatibility of design, surrounding properties, wooden clapboards, and relation to historic and architectural values of existing structures.
Thank you. All right, now, All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. All right. Now, we are off to public hearing number 3, petition of Richardson Revocable Trust, owner for property located at 142 State Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, removal and replacement of slate roof to asphalt shingles, as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 107 as Lot 60 and lies within the Character District 4 and Historic Districts. Hello. Who's here to present? You can, the top microphone is fine.
Sure.
Good, I can lean forward for it. Basil Richardson, currently 369 Court Street, Portsmouth. I'm here basically to try to avert a hazard in the future. The roof in question is apparently original to the building. The building is 1812, 1814, or thereabouts. I'm somewhat reluctant to replace it, but it's something that must be done. I can't give you too much history of the original part, but I will give you a brief summary of everything that's happened since '54. Again, the roof is probably original. When we came to Portsmouth in '48, there was 2 levels of the sidewalk on each side of State Street. It was lined with elm trees. It was a hell of a lot more attractive than it is today. The roof of that building shed snow in the winter almost on an annual basis. In 1954, my father put an addition on 148 State that encompassed 142 and put a state-of-the-art aluminum awning on 148. In 2 years, that roof shed the snow one winter and the awning. Less than 5 years later, it happened again. Eventually, we took the awning down. We had a professional come and try to tie it off so that nothing would happen. They did sort of a cross build that allowed the snow to be held right where it was. 3 years later, the weight of what built up took out a pickup truck. Tried again with heavier timber, and it only took another 2 years for that to happen again. By my count, that roof is taken down, at least 2 awnings, 3 cars. I don't think I want to see it hit a person. I remember going to Haven School. Sharon Pridham probably remembers it too. That we used to be cautioned by the teachers there to stay out away from the edge of the buildings during the winter. As time went on, it's become a little bit warmer here, so it's not as much of a problem as it used to be. But the front of that roof is still taken several, and I'm sure could easily take a person. The other side of the building drops onto the addition that was put on to create the store. And generally that's obnoxious, but no real problem. Until the snow gets to be 7 feet high and breaks the windows. So I think it's really time to replace it with something that works. Now 148, which is right next to 142, has exactly the same pitch. Years ago, before 1950, that roof became an asphalt shingle, and we've never had a problem since. The obvious answer, so far as I'm concerned, is we should change it over. I have the blessing of Gary Levy, who's unable to be here tonight. We've talked it over, and he tends to agree. I understand that 159 State Street has sent you a letter. I'm going to turn it over to my daughter now, and she's got the new Richardson's Market.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Beth Danilowski. I live at 5 Washington Street.
Hi.
Do you have any questions about the project?
Yeah, so, yes, are there any questions about this? Sure, John?
What type of shingle are you using?
Just an architectural
There
asphalt.
will be architectural.
Yes.
All right. Fiberglass shingles.
The asphalt architectural.
Yeah,
asphalt.
they're asphalt
Yeah.
fiberglass, yeah. Are they going to be a similar color to what those slates are? Kind of a mix of
Yeah.
gray, blue, and green, everything else?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my only question.
Yeah. Martin?
So this is the same roof that when you got the property, it's the same roof. You've never changed the roof in all those years?
No, the
Okay.
slate roof.
And you think that the slate is the reason that you're having these major snow collapses? Okay, I can't necessarily agree with you. I'm not sure why you would have more snow and more buildup and more of a slide off with the slate than any other roof, Have you considered a new slate roof?
No.
You'll have to come up to the microphone again to
well, his
talk.
daughter can answer.
Or, yes.
The nature of the slate is the moisture builds up between the snow and the roof, melts, and then sheds the whole thing at once.
Yeah.
It's just the way it works. Check with South Church.
And you think that's due to the material, that the asphalt will correct that?
Yes.
This is why you so often see snow guards put on slate roofs, either the little spiky things or bars or something, because,
We tried that.
yes.
They come down too.
If they're not put on originally with the installation of the slate roof, it gets a little tricky.
I mean, I would imagine slate roof works like a metal roof. It generates heat, snow melts,
Yep.
snow slides.
Yes,
Well,
Mark?
So,
let me finish my comments. I would be reluctant to trade out a slate roof for an asphalt roof. I know the pitch is not terribly, gives you a lot of an exposure on the street level. So I'd have to think about that for a moment. Maybe a synthetic slate would be more agreeable. But I'll let some other commissioners speak to this.
Well, I was going to ask if you had considered the synthetic slate option.
No.
It's not, the roof is not really visible from the street. So we won't be changing something that, you know, if you're walking down the street, you would have no idea what we have as a material on there.
Right. And that's my feeling on this. I mean, normally I would really hate to see, I would always hate to see the loss of a slate roof. Here, you have a very, very old slate roof. It is definitely past its life expectancy. Like it is, you know, you really would have to replace the entire thing.
Yeah, we did approach them about, because we are having leaks, as I'm sure you can imagine. But when they were inspecting it, you know, the number of slates that are cracked and
Yep.
damaged, at that point, we would just have to replace the whole thing.
No, I don't think you can repair this any longer. But, you know, really, except for the neighbors in the upper floors across the street, you can't see that this is a slate roof at all. And so, you know, from walking around, maybe from a far distance. But I don't think that the replacement of this roof is going to seriously impact the character of this street or people walking around or the building at all. You know, the only thing that we don't have is, which we would request, is to have specifications of what you do decide to put on here. They do make asphalt roof shingles now that are more square in appearance, so they kind of, it's not the architectural ones, but they're kind of squared ones, so they do kind of look slate-ish. That, you know, you might consider just to kind of, just in case you have that far away look, that somebody can say that, oh. But that's my feeling on this, so I don't know if
Thank you.
anybody else has any other questions.
I just wonder if there was a, I, like you, thought that this was one of those invisible roofs and it wasn't much of an issue. I was surprised at the condition of it. So I walked to the street and there's a view of it. It doesn't jump out at you, but there is a view of it. We've also seen other people in the historic district of late recognize the aesthetic value of something other than a standard fiberglass cord asphalt shingle, which don't have the wear characteristics of even a simulated slate. And we do have, as you suggested, a couple of different kinds of simulated slate roofing. And we've been, in some cases, holding people to bear on slate roofs. We just, a week ago, opted for the replacement of a natural stone slate roof to a synthetic slate. But I think that it does, aesthetically, it has the same kind of impact. I also agree that putting the snow stanchions in, you can't depend on 2 or 3 installed as an aftermarket. They have to be intentionally installed at the same time. But looking down at this, and you have to admit, Basil, that you've gotten pretty good use out of the slate roof that's there, looking like it's been there for, I don't know, 230 years. And it's curious when you looked at the area where your basins have stripped the slate or beaten the slate off the roof, that there's no underlayment materials at all. This is how it was done back in the day. Anyway, I'd like to encourage the applicant to make a stab at a synthetic roofing material that looked more like the slate. I'd like to think that the community as a whole is coming around to roofing materials as being important, and I'd like to think that we could all work toward that contribution. I'm not really ready to give up on this one.
Okay. Well,
No,
go ahead.
I mean, we could ask him to come back next month after looking at obviously it's going to be a cost comparison between the synthetic slates, which are recycled plastic and rubber content, all this sort of stuff. We looked at some last week that are very quick to go on. They're nail-on, so they're not, terrible. And at that time, you would also have your snow guards put on. So if you could, look at that cost comparison versus your shingles, because in my opinion, what the majority of the cost of this project is going to be is labor. It's going to be setting up, it's going to be getting a permit to close the sidewalk off, you're going to have to take all this stuff off without killing anybody. It's labor, and the shingles, the different shingles, yes, they're going to affect the overall cost, but I'm in agreement with David, and I think Martin, I think we have kind of a majority on the board that's thinking that we want a little bit more work on your end, and come back next month.
I'm sure that time is of the essence with leaks and things like that, but we do need to have some sort of a example or what am I looking for?
A sample.
A sample of materials, specifications to know what we're approving. So we can't just say, sure, do whatever you want. So if you could bring back to us at least, even for an administrative approval, maybe. I don't know that we want to continue this whole thing, but come back to say what you want to use, and maybe have a cost comparison. Look at the synthetic slates, look at the squared off asphalt shingles that are a little thicker that kind of simulate that. But, in my opinion, you have a wonderful building, but it is not a focal structure in our downtown district. It's not North Church. It's not anything where South Church or any of these big buildings where the roofing is a real character defining feature of the building. So I'm not going to fall too hard on this one, because I think that with a synthetic look, even in asphalt, you could achieve generally the same optics for this roof, which is visible from certain places, but is not really in your face. Yes, Martin.
I will tell you this: once you pull that slate off, you're going to be replacing all the sheathing as well. It goes back to the previous applicant tonight. This is not just a roof replacement. This is more than that. And I think if we lose another slate roof, that's not a good thing. Whether it's a feature building or not, it's part of the fabric of this historic district, and I'd hate to lose it.
Okay. So.
Do we have a motion to
Yes.
continue?
This is what I was going to ask for. So I guess we just need
That's
to.
what I'm trying to say.
Okay, well, just a little patience, Sean, I'm getting there. If there are no other comments on this, is it okay to, hopefully it's fine, we're going to move to continue this to next month to give you guys time to bring back whatever you plan to actually replace it with, so that we can vote on that. Okay, so can I get a motion to?
A motion to continue to next month?
Second?
Did we want that as a public hearing continuation or as an administrative
Yes.
approval?
No, public hearing.
Just wanted to be very clear.
All right,
Thank
great.
you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. I guess I don't need the gavel, that it's continuance. Okay. Now we're here to number 4, petition of Matthew Morton Associates, LLC, owner for property located at 87 Market Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, replacement windows and doors, as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 106 as Lot 43 and lies within the Character District 4, Downtown Overlay, and Historic Districts. Hi.
By way of disclosure, I need to recuse myself from this. The same building owner also owns my wife's storefront.
Okay.
So I need to recuse myself from discussion and/or voting. so.
Okay, thank you. Usually if you recuse yourself, you feel free to go into the audience.
I could use a drink of water.
Okay, go for it. All right.
I will.
Please introduce yourself.
Okay,
you.
so I'm Jeff Jones. I own Main Coast Builders. We're going to be doing that.
I'm sorry, I couldn't, can you step close to the
Yes,
microphone?
my name is Jeff Jones. I own Main Coast Builders. We're going to be doing the work here. So the windows that are in question for replacement are Marvin windows. And someone made comment about they couldn't see the, I printed them off and they were still hard to see, so I just printed a full set of the shop drawings if you want these. Do you need these to look
Sure,
at the
yes,
actual buttons?
it was very difficult to see any of the,
Dave, did you want to see it?
I would love to, yes. But, at the same time,
You want to take them home?
this is kind of thank you very much for doing that, but that doesn't give a person very much time to prepare to understand what's going on.
Yeah, like
That
right now.
I'm doing it right now.
Right.
I didn't think that that's how we did this.
Yeah, and their roles, too.
right. Well, let's,
All right, well,
while he's here, let's have him give an overview of what's going on, and then, like last one, we can continue it to next month, if we need more time to really consider what it is. So if you'll please just give us a brief overview of what your project is.
so we're replacing the roof on the rubber roof, flat roof on the building.
Could I ask, excuse me, could you get closer to the microphone or
Yeah,
something?
can
I'm a
you-
little hard of hearing.
Yeah, so we're gonna be replacing the rubber roof on the building. We're gonna be repointing all the brickwork and all that, and doing brick repair and replacing all the windows in the structure. They're the same Marvin windows that are actually in the building, a few buildings down in that same block. But, the storefront windows are all pretty much the same. They're all, for the Bliss and the Macro Polo storefront are just going to be all replaced as the same. I mean, what they are, basically. They wanted to make a slight adjustment on the restaurant, the Dolphin Striker windows in the front there, creating more of a bow window instead of the single plate glasses that are there. They wanted to see if they want to also create a double hung there. I mean, a double hung window as opposed to just a single plate, a single sash glass that's there now because it's a makeup air for the restaurant. They want to get the restaurant up and running again. So it's a matter of makeup air.
Which windows are you referring to?
So the ones on, what's this, the angled street? Is that Bow Street?
Street.
Are
That's
they-
Bow?
Street? Yeah, Bow. Okay, yeah,
Series
thank
Street.
you. So
Bow.
those are all fixed windows at this point, and what they wanted, Marvin is suggesting creating those as a bow window. They'll look basically like that, but they wanted to put a muntin. If you look at, they still have the 8 light configuration, but the center rail will be a check rail, and there'd be a functional double hung window, and that would allow makeup air within the structure for the restaurant, because that's the hard part to try, because to make up air on that's going to be the hard part, to get the restaurant up and running so we can create most of that with functioning windows. in
Can
that
we
section.
pass those drawings this way? I'd like to see them.
Oh, yeah, you can have,
So one of my questions is,
Leave 'em alone.
what's the history of the
I assume
existing
they're the
windows?
same.
I'm sorry.
What is the history of the existing windows? When do they date from?
Oh, God, I'm sorry, I don't really know the answer to that, but I would say probably, they're probably not original to the building, I'm sure, but, they've been there for 100 years probably, I would imagine,
That makes a difference to me if you're asking to pull out a window that's 100 years old. and replace it with with a modern window, that's a meaningful ask for me. If you told me these were from the 1980s, I would feel differently.
Yeah, well, I don't really know. I could find that out, I guess. I'm not really sure 100% what the date of those windows are.
Guys know?
David
do
is
you know
saying
some of the-
74.
At least some of the windows, or all of them?
The Dolphin Striker windows in particular, it was kind of a unique thing in town when it was done.
Yeah.
And they are, single units. They're non-operable. Your intention is to put them back in groups of 3 again?
Yeah,
simulating that?
yeah, exactly, but they'd be functional. Actually, Foster Jones, who was Main Coast Builders, actually did the renovations in there many, many years ago. And I don't know if they replaced the windows at that time or not.
Can we go back to the storefront for a minute?
Sure, yeah.
And what we'll say, Bliss is a storefront, and then Macro Polo is the
Another
storefront?
one. But they're all the same. It'll be
But they're
all
all
the
the
same
same.
look, yes.
Oh,
Yep.
there's a cast iron frame.
Yeah, there is. So there's some posts. There's 2 steel posts.
And some posts.
Yeah, some steel posts, and then,
And then there's wood frames inside that.
Yes, correct.
What are you proposing to replace there?
All of it, basically, all the wood structure around it, all the windows. All right, so here.
You'll have to take the microphone with you.
Those are cast iron, aren't they?
The frame, the storefront is a
Yeah, so it's basically, these are steel posts, bang, bang, these are all steel posts, so they'll be painted, but all this stuff in between will be replaced here, and I'm going to be honest with you, all this, there's a really bad, now this is another problem, which is part of the restaurant restoration, is the restaurant, which is down below here, the Dolphin Striker itself, water runs down there. That's a rubble foundation, and water runs down there. And I honestly feel, because this is wood here, but with these bricks butt up to the wood side and this chunk of granite there, I think the water, when it rains, it runs right down there, and it runs down the dirt line there that between the brick and the wood, and just runs down the, it's an
So
issue.
flashing.
It's a problem, and I don't know how to really.
Lead flashing.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that needs to be addressed, it does. And I mean, right now I've got all the stages set up there now, but man, that's another issue for another, that's something that I haven't really addressed yet, but in order to fix that, I feel it's involved, you know what I mean? I think it's a little bit more than just stucking some lead flashing in there because the water runs down through. But
This is kind of an interrogation because you know things that I don't know, right? I'd like to hear them.
I'm just kind of getting brought up. Well, I mean, yeah.
If you're just making stuff up, then I guess it doesn't matter. But if you know things.
Well, no, I do. I only from being, exposed to this since I have been for the last couple months. So my observation that I've made since I've been there is that all the water, when it rains, and it comes down, the water runs down this wall face on that rubble foundation on the restaurant side, well, down in the Striker and down below there. And that, I believe, it's got to be, because, none of this stuff is leaking to that degree, you know what I mean? The windows, this doesn't come down. It really comes down through, I believe, through this portion where the brickwork meets the building. And I don't even know what that looks like down below there. I obviously I'm torn it apart, but, this is all part of that, replacing the windows. I got to get into that to see what it looks like because it runs below the brick, but it's almost a separate piece of that. You know what I mean? It's almost something I haven't even really, I don't know what that's going to be yet. You know what I mean?
That's fine. That's not part of this application. so-
It isn't, right. So, I mean, I don't even know I brought that up, but I did, so.
Yeah. So you're replacing the wooden frames and the glass.
Yeah, the glass.
All the way across all of these bays.
Yep. Yes, all of it, all the wood. Now, these are all metal, like I said. So these sashes in between, and all these cross-mount pieces, all this will be replaced. These sashes, these are going to be as a window. If you look at the shop drawings, you'll see that this is just a big plate glass with a sash, and we'll be building for new framework around.
When you make that new frame, what will it look like?
It'll look like this. It'll all be wood, you know, look like this. It'll look like this, you know.
And when you say look like this, will it,
And like,
in the same dimensions?
yeah, it's in the shop drawings. I'd have to look at it again.
I had a hard time seeing them. I'm the one that made that comment.
Okay, yeah.
Because I couldn't.
Yeah,
I
so
couldn't
that-
tell at all. I couldn't
I
even.
printed it in an 11. you know,
I'm sure you.
I couldn't
I'm sure
see
you
it
meant
either.
well, but it didn't work.
I know. Yeah.
I know too.
So so when did that get sent in? I probably should have sent you, but I didn't know how to get that to you. You know?
Time.
Yeah.
It was frustrating on my part. So, the wood frames you believe you're going to replace like the wood frames that are there? I'm really ultimately concerned about the history of this. The cast iron storefront, which has over the years lost a lot of pieces, I'm sure you know that, between rust and accident. And the wood frames, as in my opinion, are in many areas are rotting. They're not holding paint in many areas. Most looking at it from the street, the upper left-hand side of the Macro Polo building, the wooden curved pieces are actually rotting. There's paint actually coming off the stone in between the bays on the most left-hand side.
Up in here, you mean? Or?
Yeah. So I'm concerned about what it's going to end up looking like, because as you heard earlier tonight, people start out with the best of intentions, and then things snowball, and then they just do whatever they feel like. And I'm trying to nip that in the bud, if you understand my point.
Mm-hmm.
Your new windows, your new glass going to be thermopane, thicker?
They'll be
glass?
insulated.
Insulated
This
glass?
is glass, yeah.
How thick will it be?
I don't know, 7/8.
drawings.
I think the 7/8 spacer bars I was reading.
So that puts it around an inch and an eighth or inch and a quarter when it's done? Like that?
Yeah, total, the glass, yeah.
And you're going to do that with the curved windows, and you're going to match all of those curves?
Yes, these are, yep. The radius is, it's on the shop drawings. I don't know.
So, yeah,
exactly
and my
the radius is.
concern on the shop drawings is that the drawings that you have for those curved parts is just
A curve.
a curve. It's not
That's not right.
sort of, it's not matching exactly what you're seeing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can have them match that radius exactly, through Marvin, because they're custom. They're custom. They'll make anything. So
Yeah.
I can have them come back and make them arches exact. I think the radius,
I mean,
is the
No,
same.
they're
This is the
flat
same as
top.
that one. I can
Yeah.
do that.
I mean, I think these are such historic
Yes. I
storefront,
agree.
are such important storefronts in our downtown that
Yeah.
anything that you replace needs to be pretty much exact. So, and I would be the Macro Polo door, if I'm remembering correctly, I can't see it, is not as historic, but the Bliss door is, and has historic hardware. So is that one proposed to be replaced
I'm
too?
not actually sure. I don't think
Okay.
we're replacing the door.
Okay, great.
We're not replacing the door.
There are two doors on your
Yeah,
schedule
they're
that you're replacing. Where are they?
They're on the back side of that, going up Series Street. There's two back, there's a couple of doors back there that are, not that one. No, that's the restaurant. It's just two access doors to the restaurant. There's one of them there, and the other one is up above it, I think. It's on I think so these two, I believe, it's like 1, 2, I think. We weren't going to replace the doors on the Macro Polo, Bliss, or the Striker at this time. But I can get the radiuses on those windows the same, too.
John?
So up top, he's got Marvin replacement windows, which we have approved before. He's even got that 12 over 12 window, which could have been cheapened up. So in general, I'm feeling that I'm pleased with the top. I don't feel that this is a complete application for the storefronts at all. You know, just, you're casually saying it as a layman, you know, we're going to replace this wood. You know, we're going to replace this glass. So I guess besides you having some rotted wood that you are concerned about, what's wrong with the glass that's there? Is it broken, chipped?
It's single pane glass.
It is single pane.
Framework around them is rotten, like you mentioned, doesn't even really hold.
You have to use the microphone still.
Okay.
Doesn't really hold paint anymore, so.
You
It's-
know you can obviously have somebody come in there and do some serious repairs. You could have storm windows made for the inside, which would be single pane also.
Like
and,
energy panels
they
on these
would
things.
avoid all of this construction that you've gotten
Well-
yourself into here.
But, I mean, isn't it just a matter of time?
That, not necessarily. I mean, how long has the storefronts been there?
So if it's a matter of, you know, replacing these sashes as they are, I can get, I know the drawings are a little bit different, but
Yes,
I can
they're
get these radiuses the same, just like that. So these can look exactly like they are, but, you know, these metal columns are, like you're saying, metal columns, they are what they are. These, everything in between can get replaced from the inside to the out to butt into it so that it can look just like that. I mean, wood.
I would just like to
Which is what
complete
it is.
my statement then.
Uh-huh.
The only thing I could say is that if that we went through with this application, assuming that he has the proper dimensions for the glass and everything,
Yes.
that we would want photographs of all conditions of the windows, of the door jambs, of everything, and it would be
You make
replaced,
'em-
as you are telling me, it would be replaced exactly, and we have somebody that checks it, and if it's not replaced exactly, you're gonna be in front of us again, it's not gonna be nice. So I'm just telling you that.
New sheriff in town.
I've
Thank
been
you.
sitting next to you.
I know, it's rubbing off. Can I ask a couple more questions?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
On the back, next to the, I don't know, that little louver access or mechanical
Yeah.
box that's on the back of the building
Mess.
on Ceres, there, I'm sorry, that's great. Can we go just
On-
to the last one that we saw, which is, there we go. When you replace that window, that's, I assume, when you say you're replacing all the windows in the building, when you replace that window, are you going to replace the window unit that someone else replaced, or are you going to put a window in the size that the opening is?
No, it's an actual window that's replacing, so all this comes out and the new will look like that. The new one will go in and look like that. The
What,
window will be
like
the
what,
same
that?
Dimension, and the trim width will be the same dimension.
How about I'm seeing a sill, a filler, a sill.
Yeah, that's kind of, but that is, because this is, I think, painted granite or whatever, you know. I think
That's the original.
this isn't.
It's actually tooled. I think it's limestone, but it might be marble. And it goes back to, it's hard to be certain, but probably 1840 when this window and windows like this were put in.
Yeah, and
Is that going to be the sill of your new window opening?
no, this will stay, because this will all stay.
Yes?
This is the stone part, and this,
Replacement.
this sill right here will be, this upper one.
Yes.
Will be the replaced.
So you're going to put a window in that's sitting 3.5 inches above the actual windowsill, the stone sill.
Yeah, yeah,
You're going to replicate the thing that's there now.
right, yes.
Now, there are 3 or 4 others nearby that are very similar to that. Is that your intention on those also?
Yes, yeah, yeah. There's,
do you
yeah,
see
there's, you can see these are different, these are a little bit different view. They'll look like this when they go back in. The windows are gonna be replaced as they are in. in respect to what comes out. Like that other one looks a lot different. That'll look like that one. These ones will look like these. Those doors are whatever. I mean,
Next question.
Yep.
Further up on the back of the building, there are some
Those
window openings that have been enlarged over time.
Yeah, it's big.
And there are three-part bay
Yeah,
or
whatever
they are.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And you're reinterpreting those as just large, big pieces of glass in windows. You're just basically taking the exact thing that's there now and refreshing it in new materials?
Yeah, it's exactly like that. It's a big bay window and two, I don't know if it's a hung or on, I can't remember.
Couple of buildings down.
I know, I know you're gonna say they replaced
I'll
them
bet
with
you do.
windows. I bet, yeah, because they look better. They're actually double hungs.
Better.
Double hungs. They look better.
Better. You can do better.
I can. I mean, I agree.
You
with
think you would?
I was just looking at it. It's funny you made that comment.
It's not funny at all, sir. Honest to God. I don't laugh about this at all.
Those look so much better than
Sometimes
what
you do.
we're proposing to replace, but I thought
Okay.
we had to replace them exactly like they were.
They are,
I would rather replace them
Okay.
with the double, triple bay and all together.
you can buy a double.
Hold on, I have Martin first and then Margot.
Yeah.
This
Sounds
isn't
like-
an application.
Yeah.
This is a bunch of cuts you get offline. That's not a shop drawing. I can get these and print these offline from Marvin Window, and it's a bunch of photographs. I don't know what you're going to do. This is going to be a disaster. I'm not supporting this until you get actual, real, existing drawings, existing details, and what you're doing to the Dolphin Striker windows. There's nothing in here that's even related to that. Makeup air, this is all verbal.
Yeah.
I'm not voting yes on this at all.
Yeah.
This is not a good application. We shouldn't even be looking at this. It's incomplete.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we take this back up next month as a work session.
Yes. I'm going to let Margot make her comments, and then...
David has just taken the comments
Okay,
right
fine.
in my mouth, which I
Okay.
was going to suggest that we've raised a lot of questions and a lot of issues for the applicant's representative. I think you have a pretty good idea of the level of detail that we want for every single window and every single replacement that you're doing because of the value of this building. So if you have any questions about what we're looking for, we're available to you. Isaac is available to you, and we would love to see you next month.
Yeah. Is that okay? And it gives you time to, if you'd like to, update the big picture windows in the back and make it look better. That's always a possibility. Maybe give you a little extra time.
So do you have all right, so you would rather see the windows and the Dolphin Striker look just like they are and not put together as double hungs?
No, we just want a complete detailed package of what's going to happen to each window. What you want to ask for is up to you. I didn't hear anybody say that they were against those windows, but there's just not enough detailed information for us to be able to approve anything at this time. So if
Bob's your uncle.
And this may be wholly inappropriate, but I've got a phone number. Call me. I'll meet you there and help you go around all of this so that you are better prepared to sit and answer these questions. And I'll get what you want also. Swear.
If you do that, then
I'll be your buddy.
you would have to recuse yourself, but you might get a better product. So just whatever you want. It's up to you. But
Willing to do that.
you've heard a lot from us, so hopefully you have an idea. One more thing that I'd like to throw in there is
I agree.
information, of the windows that are up there right now. Just to know whether or not, do we know, are those older windows, what the age is of those windows, what their, if
Not colonial.
old sash weights and stuff, don't say that with a bad tone. We like those. If they do have old sash weights, if they're historic windows, we need to know that, and would like photographs. I mean, I personally would love to see historic windows restored rather than replaced. So that's why we have to have a little bit of information about some of those upper windows too, to know why they merit replacement. So you've got lots of information, and you can come back next month, hopefully with a little bit more. And
Was this another
For a work
motion?
session, correct?
and maybe
I made
a
a
work
motion.
session, public hearing type thing?
Made a motion?
I made a motion,
You did.
has been seconded.
Anyone in a second to
Can we hear the
continue?
motion again?
What's the motion?
The motion is to
Continue.
close this and move it into a work session next month.
Okay. Does
I'll
that need
second
to
that.
be re-noticed?
Yes, so if we do a work session, it would. If we do the work session public hearing, we can always request a work session prior to a public hearing. So
do that.
it would depend on the language. It might be easier for the applicant if we continue as a work session public hearing.
Is that okay with you? All right.
And
Great.
that doesn't mean that we have to conclude the public hearing.
Right.
That just means that we'll have the opportunity to go through the
We
work
can
session
actually
process.
sit down with you and have more of a conversation than all of us being up here. We'll have you contact Isaac and try and figure out the best way forward. We're not going to tell you that. So, but Isaac can help you and figure out the best application here. Oh, is the,
I think the battery might have.
oh, is that one dead? Oh. Okay.
My
All
bad.
right. Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, so is there a second to continue
Yes.
this as a work session public hearing to next month?
Yes, there is.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Chair votes aye. Thank you. All right. You'll be in, I'm sure you and Isaac will be in touch. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now we are going on to work sessions here. Our first work session is requested by Kevin Shitan Zhang Revocable Trust of 2017. I hope I said that correctly. Owner for property located at 377 Maplewood Avenue, wherein permission is requested to allow the demolition of the rear structure on the lot and the new construction of a detached accessory dwelling unit as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 141 as Lot 22 and lies within the General Residence A and Historic Districts. All right.
The applicant had mentioned that they were going to try to be here by 8 o'clock. They had a prior engagement.
Okay.
I said that if they were not here when we announced the work session, we would move that to the very
Okay.
bottom, and we would continue with the other work sessions.
So moved.
Seconded?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to move to work session B, which is work session requested by Jeffrey Daniel Berlin, sorry, we're used to the New Hampshire, owner for property located at 38 State Street, Unit Number 4, wherein permission is requested to allow renovations to an existing structure, new roofing, roof deck, and windows, and new construction to an existing structure, construct new penthouse addition to access roof deck, as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 105 as Lot 10-4 and lies within the Character District 4 and Historic Districts. All right,
Hello.
I'll go down.
Should recuse myself.
So, Jeff Berlin, I recently purchased this condo about 6 weeks ago.
You are welcome to come and sit at the
Oh.
table. For work session, we can all get cozy.
First time here.
No reason for you to have to know what we do. That's for us to tell you, don't worry. Don't worry.
Gotcha.
Now you can please introduce yourself. And you don't have to, actually, this thing, I've
Mix it
been
up.
told, is very sensitive and
Okay.
can pick generally everything up, so.
Don't throw those things on.
Including when you hit it with your plans.
Don't cover it up.
So,
Okay.
you've got a nice projecting voice, you should be fine. I might need to.
Is it? All right. Perfect. So, yeah, I'm Jeff Berlin. I live in Madbury, actually Durham, but and went to Temple, Israel growing up, and walked down State Street my entire life growing up past this exact building, and I've always wanted this. So this condo came up a couple weeks ago. We closed on, actually the day it closed on, it was like pouring rain through this apartment. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but there's a roof deck that's part of this, and it was just an aging roof that the condo had kind of neglected. And so it's currently gutted right now, and before we started building it back, and even before that, I kind of had thought there would be a better use, a more classy use for the roof deck in the form of a bedroom and more living space. And there's the other aspect of this is kind of changing the front facade of the existing dormer on the main level of the unit. There's currently like a spindle top dormer on there, and I think that we can kind of rework it into something a little bit better that fits into the neighborhood a little bit more. So Brandon has probably the skills necessary to
Probably.
yeah. So hopefully get us there. So
Do our best.
I'll give it to him.
Brandon Holben with Winter Holben Architecture and Design, and we are here with this. It's a nice 1850 federal style row block building along with must have been a busy year on State Street because most of them were built around that time period. And there's some good history there. There was what do we find? The Puddle Dock Pub was downstairs there. The Red Sled was a store next in 36. There was some good history. Portsmouth Sign Company, I believe, was there at one point. And these old photos were from this was from 1980.
We like old
82.
photos.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Is that
Nice cars.
the evidence photo?
Yeah. But you can see, so the dormers, there's actually some roof staging up there. So I don't know if they were just finishing that project in 82 or if they were just working on it. It was already deteriorating. But yeah, another building with a lot of stories. As it's been gutted from all the water damage, you can see all the layers of history inside the building, and a lot of different variations in dormers and expansions and fires and reused burnt timbers and all kinds of good stuff. So it's been fun to explore. And so obviously, it's a tall task here trying to accommodate the vision. But there's when you're up there, it's beautiful. There's this incredible view. You get the trees from the park, you get the river, the bridge, looking all around town there. There's some nice context photos you can see on page 2. And obviously, I think everyone knows this one pretty well. It becomes an example often, good or bad, for different applications. And you can see some of the views from the main roof balcony there, the middle left. It's kind of looking back up State Street from that roof deck, and then across. Across the street. You can see some views from the park. You can sort of see some of the dormers that have been added to the adjacent structure, which is sort of a mixed. 36 is sort of shared. They're separate condos, but they have some shared egress and easements through them. So you'll walk up the stairs, and then you'll go into one side and the other. And so it's kind of this intertwined egress up through the space. There's a fire escape in the back, which is staying as is. Eventually, so just base work. We're looking at replacing some windows, and we'll come back with more detail on that. We were just starting with the big scope first, and then we'll come back with some more refined solutions. You can see the existing plans. You can see the bow shape dormer, existing roof deck at the main floor. See, this is the unit entry at the top of those stairs there. So very simple. Floor space there, and now it's all been opened up like this. The variety of roof framing solutions that have been done that we'll be working on reinforcing. And then you can see the existing roof deck up here. So the roof deck is currently removed. They have a permit to do the roof repairs and then replace the roof deck. That's sort of what's been allowed just for the immediate emergency work that's going on there. And then through that, he reached out to us to see what else he can work in here. And you can see the sort of roof section of the existing section here. So you can see there's the front has a sort of low slope. It's about a 1.5 pitch. These are where some of those old timbers are. They're charred timbers that aren't even really connected properly to the wall that it's on. So we imagine these were probably in the original roof that burned, and they reused them in the new roof when they popped this up. And some interesting connection details that we'll be working on replacing those as well. And then you can see that sort of flat roof where the roof deck is in the middle, and then it sort of low slopes off the back. And there's some mechanical equipment that's up there existing. So we're looking at sort of a slew of solutions here to deal with some of the concerns. The design precedent here, you can see it's a series of these all around, just different applications of expanding fire, with new dormers, expanded firewalls, elements like that, and then obviously some roof penthouses across the street that we're appealing, and just look at materials. We're looking at some roofing materials, some siding materials, maybe some copper elements. We'll see some of the design solutions. So we have an existing model here. We plugged, just using the city provided model. It's a great resource. Just kind of getting a sense of the scale and the topography of the roof lines across up and down the street here. And then concept A on page 9 here shows the first solution, and this is sort of flattening out the bay and kind of reducing the roof deck at the main level, and then creating this sort of bow roof form at the penthouse. And that's sort of set back, so it meets the sort of penthouse criteria. It's 20 feet back from the main wall, and then it's even less than the 15 that's required from the rear of the public way. And yeah, there wouldn't actually be windows on the side. Those would be a panel detail that we wrap around. So the render was showing sort of some windows on the side, but that would be a solid wall there. And concept B, concept A is showing the streetscape here with the added element. This is kind of back across the street over on Daniel, looking back at it, so you kind of get more of the streetscape perspective. Concept B, we looked at, again, with the dormers in the front, just kind of taking some of the language that was going on with the dormers next door, but just a little twist on the style, and kind of doing a paired dormer, kind of aligning these with the windows below each of the dormers. But then the one on the right, we sort of pushed it in a little bit to create a little bit of deck space and a walkout for the door. So we have the door here aligned with the storefront below, and then each of the dormer windows aligning with the window. So there's kind of an interesting pattern there that kind of came about. And this one was more of a hip top penthouse. So just looked at that, kind of keeps the profile down. A little simpler.
What did you say about the penthouse? What is it?
More of a hip top penthouse roof. The first one was
Not
sort of the
arched.
Yeah,
Not
the
an
arched
arch.
kind of bow truss roof. So that one we were thinking of doing, more of a nautical interior style with some art.
It has to be.
Has to be.
I
Right?
know it. You've got to have a model ship up there.
Got to. Ship in a bottle.
Yeah.
So that's concept B, and then again the streetscape of concept B on page 12. Showing that, and then we've got some proposed plans. We just showed concept A here just to give you a sense of that. Just looking at the expanded dormer and then the reduced roof deck along State Street, and then the penthouse structure with the new spiral staircase going up. You can see that's about, the side is about 3 feet setback from the side edge here, the main roof. About 18 inches from the existing dormer roof to the sidewall of that structure, and then it's about 18 inches on the side of that dormer wall. It's about 12 by 19 or so. And then you can see the section showing how that works walks in. And there'll be some reinforcing, obviously, and structural work that would be required if we were able to move it forward. That's sort of the general extent of the work. Obviously, there would, we'll come back with more for the main body things we do downstairs. That'll be happening either way, with or without the penthouse.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions, comments, discussions? This is work session, so we can be a little bit more casual.
So are we starting with basic, like, comparative mass?
Yes,
and
I mean,
how
we're
it
starting
sits
from the
on
beginning. Yep, so overall, starting from your sort of.
I'll just start out by saying I am unused to seeing a row building supporting so much material on its roof. And so to me, it seems like a real wall that I'm hitting here. Most of the buildings that we see that carry appurtenances on their roofs ends there. I don't think I've ever seen dormers and get another structure on top, except for some of our larger, more significant and modern buildings. But this isn't a penthouse. This is another whole floor. I mean, I think of it, I guess, the penthouse being in scale with the building being a smaller unit. Anyway, I'm struggling. I'm really struggling. I don't think I appreciate the hip structure any more than the bowed Quonset type roof. I don't think either of them, to me, enhance or even qualify as contemporaneous with the structures that are below. Just me throwing that out.
John?
I'm not seeing a proposed plan for the fifth floor, say, these penthouse units.
It's on there. It's at the end.
So I see this one here,
14.
Concept A. Is there a B? No,
the
there
plan-
isn't a B. So what I'm wondering, it looks to me like A is offset. I don't know why it seems like that. I'm not sure.
I think
When you show it with the,
It's centered on the dormer.
when you show it with the hip roof, it seems to be centered, which really helps my symmetrical mind.
I think it's just the angle of the model.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
footprints are
maybe
the
it
same.
is.
The footprints
Maybe-
are the same.
I don't know. It's
14 is the plan, which is the
you
same.
know, like
both.
concept A here
Yeah.
appears to be way offset towards the firewall.
Yeah, I think it's just because you're not
Really?
standing directly in front of the building, you're standing right over here looking at it. So
I'm not standing there.
you're not, but
Yeah, so it's about
In
18
your-
inches
in your mind's eye.
from the lower dormer on each side.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it would be symmetrical
Yeah, it would be, it's centered and it is set in.
with the
but
hip roof.
The chimneys
Now,
are
I
different
think that
sizes.
a lot of the problems that David was just discussing are going to be problems that you're going to have structurally. Yeah, so it's a long way down to ground from up there, and everything's got to go to ground somehow or another.
Yeah.
You know, and building this thing on a 2x4 wall certainly is not going to.
No, we had a structural engineer has been on site.
He's gonna have
It's
fun.
going back out. So we have solutions. We've done similar on Market and Bow Street. We've done some solutions there with.
So I'm just going to
bedding
say at
steel
this
in the
point,
brick.
I feel B is for me, the dormers, lined up with the symmetry of the windows below. B makes more sense to me with the hip roof, but that's just right now.
And I think I would go along 100% with what John just said. I like the symmetry of B. It does seem to blend into the building to the left more. The windows line up, even your rooftop egress door is up to your entry door. And where A, there's no lining up. It's just
It's its own thing up there, yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of what's there, so it's
See, I see, that doesn't line up with that.
Yeah, I had asked him for that concept because of what I wanted inside the unit, but it's not something that I have a high
Quick
dying
que-
on that hill.
Okay, quick question though. Between A and B, your, whatever you call it, penthouse, fifth floor, whatever, are they the same size? Like between A and B? That's the same space, it's just different
Footprint
roof
is the
treatment?
same, yep.
Okay.
The roof just reads different, yeah. I think we got the roof a little lower on A because of the arc, so we actually have that wall very low, and then it arcs up to give you some headroom.
Okay.
I don't mind the massing. I think maybe you could squash it a little bit more, and maybe that, let's call it the roof level could step in just a slight bit more to distinguish itself from the existing front facade. I can't get over B because you're mimicking those horrible dormers. They're horrible, and you're using them on this proposed concept B. So I can't even get past that.
We found those old beautiful hand drawings from my former protege there.
What do you?
On
Those
file.
can't be
at City Hall.
original or something.
No, they were done in the 90s by.
Less than 30, yeah.
Oh, because the relationship of the window to the dormer, and there's no articulation of the trim and stuff, so please don't do that.
Yeah, don't copy those dormers.
I don't mind the barrel vault, and I kind of will miss that distinguished little boathouse kind of.
Well, and that's something we could explore here too. Is,
think that little,
not a bow, but something that's maybe a little more.
I mean, that's
innovative
horrible
here.
too, but at
Sixth
least
floor?
it's very different from all the rectilinear shapes that make up some of the dormers. In your examples, if you want to see great dormers, your examples are some really great dormers, and that would be more where you'd want to.
Which ones do you like?
I think they're all fine. I think they're all compatible with,
On the example space?
The one on the lower right-hand side is not a dormer necessarily, but the others, at least, are proportioned and.
The lower right side, which page do you want?
We have
Sorry.
it.
6.
Oh, I'm
Page 6.
sorry, page 6.
Thank you.
This one?
Design precedents.
Yeah, you're saying that's not a dormer.
Oh, it's more of a clear story.
Six.
So,
Those dormers look familiar, don't they?
I could live with this as a good start.
Historic district.
No, I'm sorry, I can't get behind this. My concerns are that the weight of either one of these concepts, either the height of one and of A, and the very close to the front of B, very close to the front E, it makes this entire structure to me look like it's about to fall over, just sort of top heavy. Like we're just, how much more can we cram onto this small, dainty rooftop? I think you can put something up there. I'm afraid that it's not going to meet the space that you're hoping for without looking like you're trying to put another story on this building without actually putting another story on the building, because you're not allowed to put another story on the building. So,
Yes.
So
It meets the penthouse rules, which
yes,
is not a story.
right?
Yeah.
So and so I understand why, from a legal, ordinance perspective, you're doing this, but I think from a design perspective, it doesn't work. It's just so top heavy, and I understand your the things that you're referencing back to. I'm looking at page 6, and I'm looking at the bottom left-hand side, and I see lots of different types of penthouse dormer things that have been added in. But then I look at the actual buildings, and these are modern buildings. If I remember correctly, this is Surf and Martingale Wharf. These are all modern buildings that, you can. They're heavier on the bottom. They're not this small, delicate building that you're working on top of.
Surf was on the concept, right, where the row block structures. Right? dancing up the street and
Yeah.
kind of the topography shifting up and down as you go.
But you don't have that. You don't have that here. You have something very tall and wide to the right, and then something that's a little bit smaller, and then something that's a little smaller. Then you have this, little yellow thing that's sort of painted here and has this delicate trim on the front. And so you can't play off of that advantage that they had over at Surf, where they could play off of that. So I'm having a hard time with balancing the delicate features of the building below, the small windows and the little trim, and this big modernish thing up on the top. I don't have a problem with it being modern, so don't take that wrong. The scale of it and where it sits relative to the rest of the building, I'm having a very hard time.
It's just all like a copper-clad glass structure up there.
All glass, so you can't even see.
Yeah, just see the sky right through.
Right. I am a little bit of everything here. So, and you're hearing a lot of very different opinions. I also think that I think that what is probably hindering you now is just modern code requirements, because if something like this were attempted even 50 years ago, 100 years ago, you'd have lower ceilings, a very quaint, tight space as you go up, and now you have to have their head height requirements and all of these things. So it has to be a certain height, unfortunately, that is what you're working against. So, again, same as Margot, I don't mind the idea of putting something up there. I think that it is a little bit too tall right now, and a little bit too just in your face. Unfortunately, yeah, you don't have the regularity of Low Street and Martingale Wharf and all that stuff, where it's easy to say, like, oh yeah, I want to add dormers just like over here. We're going to put that there, because the only thing you get working from are like really terrible dormers next door. So again, and I'm like Margot, I don't mind a more modern design, but it has to still somehow blend into the whole streetscape of the area. And again, maybe it's just a lot of the renderings you have right now, because it's not, those are better renderings than the ones that we have, but even still, it's not like the Tangram with the actual trees in the background and stuff like that to get a real idea of what it would look like. So
we can.
I think there's a little bit of work to try as much as you can to lessen the mass and volume up top there.
And I think structurally, there's going to need to be so much work here that we may have the ability to sink this in. We might get a foot out of it. It's just not. There's not a lot of room in here either.
No.
But I think there might be enough if we can thin out this floor deck enough. We might be able to lower this down, which would help, I think, significantly.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry, John.
Sure.
Sorry. I think maybe part of the problem when we're looking at it is he's using his, this is massing, so everything's gray. So it looks like, it's covered with sheetrock or something. I think that one of the problems that I'm having right now is that the massing of these little dormers, you did more or less copy those dormers on that left-hand building. And they're, very vertical, very straight with small windows stuck in them. I think if you went for a slightly more classical design, I think that it would make that floor better.
Yeah.
And then it's up to everybody what they think about your penthouse. But, that's...
Yeah, I know we can.
That's the penthouse. But
a quick,
I think it's important that your new dormer floor be appropriately designed.
I agree. I think that's more important than the penthouse look.
At this time, the height is one thing. I don't know. like I've kind of said before, I know this is 2024, and stuff is happening all the time. But I feel that the dormers should be more traditional. That's it for me.
Mary?
I'm not an architect, and this is a whole new can of worms, so don't throw stuff at me. But as I look at the side profile, the back is kind of like a shed dormer. And this is a big what if. But if you look at concept A, and if that thing just came straight out to a full-fledged shed dormer, you get more space. And if whatever you want to call that, penthouse / level 5 is not really a penthouse, but rather a rooftop deck, you get an even bigger outdoor porch, sun area, I don't know, cafe table, whatever, but then you don't have that high massing with that high roof because it's a rooftop deck. I'm just throwing that out there. So, I just, maybe that goes nowhere. I'm just, huh?
Nice place for a party up there.
It's a ladder.
Trying to cut down on that.
And people do fall off.
No, the smaller deck is better for
Oh.
classier use.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just tough to give away the 200 square foot.
Yeah, we're just
rooftop
trying to
deck.
make light of your 5th floor.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what we're trying to do.
I was just trying to do something that
No, it's a great idea.
got rid of the high roof up there,
We
and
were
yet still
talking
gave
about
you
that.
space. So
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree.
that way you got space, but you didn't have a high roof, and you still
Yeah.
had a big outside. You
So
actually
you're
had
talking
bigger
about
outside.
generally just shifting it back, right? Is that
No, I'm talking about.
He's saying get rid of it.
No. I'm saying like take 1, 2, 3, 4. Take this, bring it out to the whole front like it's a
Big shed.
full-fledged shed dormer.
Flush out
And,
the whole.
and yeah, and your windows match up. And there's no door here. These are all the
Solid
windows would line
routine
up with the
space.
floors below it. And then instead of this roof up here and a penthouse, then it's
Just
an
the roof
outdoor deck with railing. So you actually have a bigger outdoor deck space, and you would have more interior room on that
I
floor.
have seen you.
Bring this out to here.
I'm just throwing that out as an idea, just to get rid of the big high roof.
Get all. Take the
Is
interior
no one
space.
else bothered by a door on the roof of the building?
There's one now.
Oh, anyway,
Anyway, I don't know. I don't know. I was just throwing that out there.
Better than
Just
the sliding door?
brainstorming.
You got a penthouse if you get rid of the door. Be a trade-off.
we haven't quite gotten to let's make a deal yet.
Anybody else? Any
Sorry.
other comments on this?
I would just simply add,
See, I wouldn't
I
be
think
an
John was
architect,
alluding
then
to it,
you get airline pilot,
horizontal,
attorney.
Yeah.
horizontal dynamics would go a long way to sell the height you're dealing with.
Sorry, can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Just more horizontal features bring your eye down. Right now, you have these psycho dormers pointing to the sky that aren't helping.
Yeah.
Fewer toys.
For the record, I agree with you about the dormers. I think we're actually, I'm not great at describing it, but I think maybe he was onto it a little bit. Or Rich.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's great. I think, thank you. I think that, again, that focusing on that front piece, making it horizontal, will do a lot to kind of take your eye away from the penthouse in the back.
We've not seen anything about any kind of images or massing what this is going to look like from
Right.
the other side.
Backside.
Yeah.
I assume that will be part of the next presentation.
Yeah.
And just one more idea is that if you think of that barrel vaulted feature as more of a cupola than an actual floor or penthouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Treat it that way, I
Yeah.
think it'll sell.
And on the
Okay.
back too, on the section, we started to show some of that where the existing mechanical equipment is very visible from the alleyway. So
It's not the best view.
Yeah, so we were looking at actually doing some screening again that will make it look taller. But
Yes.
again, from the back, it would screen the entire penthouse if we did the
If you were
mechanical
lucky.
screen.
Yeah. Okay.
Into Vegas.
We all took geometry. We'll figure it out.
I know you guys.
We'll get it done.
You guys are great.
Run the angles.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Do
think
you
that's.
guys have any other questions?
I think that's
for
good
us?
feedback. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can
Great.
kind of recap.
Okay, great.
Okay, thanks
Thank
a
you
lot.
for coming. Let's get a motion to continue
So moved.
to next month. All in favor?
Aye.
Bread in the water.
Chair votes aye. All right,
And yeah,
thank you, guys.
sweet location.
Are you still waiting for someone?
I forgot to say.
We've got another one.
We're going to keep going. Okay, thank you, guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's staying.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Can I take this one?
I think so.
Sure.
Yeah, if I need the notes, just.
You paid for
photograph
it.
All right, and next work session is requested by 96 State Street LLC owner for property located at 96 State Street, wherein permission is requested to allow new construction to an existing structure, construct a two-story addition at the rear corner of the structure facing Atkinson Street, and construct a two-story addition facing State Street, as per plan on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 107 as Lot 52 and lies within the Character District 4 and Historic Districts.
You love these.
Like those storefronts?
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Bring them back. The Putnam Sports.
The Victory Spa.
So Brandon Holden here, still here with Winter Holden, and Adam Holmes is here with me as well. All right, so
How did you get two places on State Street?
Yeah.
it's like in the same week they both called. Yeah, it's like, all right, well, we're going doing one, might as well do another.
I'm going to redo all of State Street. here.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things going on with this building. So the main focus was, well, there was some issues with the sprinkler system. So the fire department is pushing to get some of that improved. So as she's looking at that, she started to think about, how can I make the space above me work better? She doesn't really right now it's a two-story restaurant with an elevator. She doesn't use the second story. I was like, maybe she use the ground floor. That's all I want for a restaurant. I want to make apartments on the top two floors. So that's sort of the general impetus to.
What about the ventilation? Is it going to be a restaurant?
Oh, yeah. The first floor will remain a restaurant, but we're going to she needs to replace a lot of that equipment as well because it's at the end of its life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a lot of trouble with that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So currently it's on the back. So the existing equipment is all on on the Atkinson Street L. So this was added, I think it was back when it was Common Man came in, converted it, and added this around it. We were probably doing that. So that's kind of the leftover from that. So all the yellow cladded.
I don't see it at all. Actually.
Oh, on sheet 2,
This is
the context
but-
photos, that middle one?
This is the
That's
wrong
where,
one?
yeah. It's just the equipment's on top of that.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
middle photo on the site contact sheet
Yeah.
that's the single story part of it. All the kitchen equipment is on top of that.
But I know
Exhaust,
with the new
makeup air.
code that the hood ventilating and the makeup air gets huge. It's much bigger.
Yeah.
Which is why I couldn't understand makeup air from windows.
That seemed like, let's not go there right now.
Yeah, okay, I don't want to go there either. I couldn't believe it.
So yeah, when we will, so
Yeah. Okay.
once this moves along, we'll start. So the idea was that she wanted to create a bigger second floor apartment, was to add a second story on that portion and basically relocate all of that equipment up there, do a partial parapet wall to help screen that equipment, make it larger than what's there currently, and then a little bit of a rail, kind of continuing a similar style to what's going on there, but it's kind of adding to the story. You can sort of see, you had the 1815.
A lot to the story.
Federal style brick house here that's been obviously converted. I think when they did the survey, it had already been converted into the Victory restaurant, and a lot of the interior had been gutted at that point. And then and obviously the clapboard sided addition here, and now sort of just expanding some second floor additions on both of the one-story portions of the building. And so some existing plans there on page 3. You can sort of see that there's sort of a basement plan. That's the old basement is obviously low ceiling height, and then there's the new basement that has some prep space down there and cold storage. First floor, all restaurant. There'll be some work to the restaurant as well. So there's a couple things we're talking about here with potentially relocating the entry, things like that. She's gonna be getting rid of the stair, the elevator, so that kind of opening up the old floor to be one wide open space in the historic part of it, which will be nice. And then yeah, you can see this, the second and third floors are very similar footprints right now. And so the second floor would get a little bigger, and third floor, there'd be a couple little additions to that. And you'll see existing elevations here. You can see the State Street elevation on page 4. You know, you can see the gap you see there between that rear addition, 3-story addition. That's the site actually tapers a little bit. So that's the beyond. It actually just is a little bit of a tapered lot line.
It's Karen's building, isn't it?
Oh, the small one here, wooden one. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and some of this was she had some concerns with the window there that was installed. I think, I'm not sure if it was permitted. There was some concern with that. And not being, I don't think it's a rated window that was put in there. So the owner had concerns, the restaurant owner.
Where are we now?
So 5 is the Atkinson Street elevation. So this is, it's a little confusing. So you have this is the existing elevation. So you have the rail's not on there in this view. And then this is beyond, the 3 stories beyond. This is the 1-story piece. Piece. You can see that better on the, this is the driveway elevation off of Atkinson, looking at the back of the restaurant portion, and the historic building to the front. And then this is, again, looking from the west here, at the west.
You might want to just, at some point, correct the chimneys in your drawings. So
Oh,
that they're not little
these-
stumps.
Yes,
That they're actually.
yeah.
It's not part of the project, but it just
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
us feel a little bit better when you see it.
The renderings show them a little better, I think. Here, so yeah, some of the existing precedents, so again, just showing kind of the existing lounge for the restaurant there. So it has, some panel detail, and then we're looking at, I think that was actually there, given back in the 80s, which I was surprised. But infilled, I'm sure, a driveway at one point, infilled long ago. And then just, kind of looking at some different character elements for these kind of small additions to the brick building, whether we have sort of a clapboard or shiplap type pattern over the panel, or kind of continue a pattern panel detail that sort of changes and breaks down in scale with some windows above it. So we're kind of just looking at some different ideas here, just trying to get inspired with that.
Where are you being inspired?
On page 8, just looking at some of the design precedent ideas. Just sort of a series of different patterns, treatments,
So
combinations
the
of
second
material.
picture, with the white extension with the trim over that has panels under the window. Right?
Yep.
Is that,
Yeah.
is that what
Yeah.
you're
So
talking about?
that's a panel and kind of pillar.
But you're not thinking of like just tongue group boards, would that being good enough, do you? That's kind of a weird way out.
Oh no. Looking at
Okay.
some of these examples where you have the detail down below,
Yes.
and then something simple above. So that it's sort of simple, which is sort of what they did with this edition, right back here. Very simple windows.
That's still page 8 right there?
Yeah, page 8. So this is the actual site here, right? But there is something that is working there, where you have this sort of detailed storefront. So that's sort of one approach, and then what's above is much simpler. Pattern changes.
It is simpler, but it, has your standard corner board, soffits, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so I think this would get more interesting. Yes.
Yeah. Traditional.
More expressive.
In that expression.
All right.
What is going on up there?
I know what it is.
So materials, obviously, we're still, the existing additions all have membrane roof, very low slope roofs, plank on the existing, and shingles on the historic building. So just kind of looking at some of that. You'll see, so concept 1, you'll see we just sort of, we're extending out the additions. You can see the 2-story infill. So we just there's a slight color variation you'll see in some of the renderings. And you guys probably don't have copies of these, but they are on screen, and I have one that we updated the renderings a little bit from what you have in your packet. But you can see this sort of a darker yellow that you can sort of see with the,
Didn't you sent us something, is that what?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we
Yeah,
we do
in
have
our
this,
emails.
actually.
and we'll have this for the next round here, but that's sort of the, so on State Street, this northwest aerial, the addition is, in concept one, the second story comes all the way out, flush with the first floor, and then the third floor is set back to the chimney line. And then same, on the rear on both are very similar. We're putting the second floor over that first floor, creating space for the rooftop equipment, but then adding a little bit of space to get another room for that third floor apartment up there. You can see on page 11, so these are the before and after views here. So the left side is the before, right side is the after. So from State Street, you're seeing, so that, again, this is the concept one with the second floor being flush. Not really getting into materials and patterns on the renderings, right? Just kind of just looking at some colors. This one would probably be more of a paneled look, where you see in the dark over the dark storefront. We would probably do something more paneled with that approach, where we're kind of pushing out closer to the street. And then the third floor, we would either continue kind of some of the similar elements of the rear of the building. Let's see, so this second floor here, we do a little bit of a parapet, so you screen some of that equipment, a little bit of a rail, just to keep some openness and not feel. But yeah, same thing. We could do. This can be more paneled. If these get big, we could look at sort of panelizing that and really creating a real parapet there to screen the equipment. And concept two, we started to, the third floor, instead of just extending out these flat roofs, we started to bookend them with some kind of hip gable structures to just create a little more interest and kind of balance it. So this new, now we're sort of extending the addition out. We're bringing the wall out to the ridge of the wood frame building, and then that's sort of centering this new. And we'll have some real elevations in the next round too that'll kind of describe this better. But this sort of ridge of this addition is kind of centered on the historic building. So there's sort of a balance, like it's a hip addition kind of coming out there, and it's kind of screening that flat roof 3-story in the back with more of an intentional design feature. But then with the second floor, we're sort of pushing that in a bit, so it kind of leaves those windows exposed there on the federal building. And then we're actually sloping that roof right off the front, similar to how it is now at the street level. And then same thing on the back is very similar, but we have again, we're just going to slope this up just to kind of bookend the existing flat roof structure up there. You sort of see those on page 13. There's, again, some updated renderings on screen, and I have a printout here. Apologize for not bringing more of those printouts. But again, not getting much into materials yet, more just massing, but we tried to add a little bit of information here. But yeah, this is sort of the idea of just carrying, the storefront is this single story, and then, this may be paneled on the back here, which, you were talking about, if you sort of panelize that, whether we break that scale down on the higher and just kind of continue the same material on the third floor, something that we'll explore further.
Yeah. I only got half of everything you said.
Okay.
No, it's not okay.
Do you want?
I mean, maybe you could pull that microphone over or something.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes you get, really down here and you just sort of, oh my God.
If I could just start with massing again.
Yeah.
And with a little bit of levity, I'm going to say that the headline for me on this is Addition Swallows Historic Building. The additions that exist now are, they're either don't wrap completely around the building, or they only wrap at the lower level. The historic building still stands above most of the additions, but what you're suggesting here, to some degree, or more or less, depending on whether it's concept 1 or concept 2, is basically swallowing up 2 whole sides of this historic building. And thank goodness we still have the view from the corner, but I'm really questioning why the historic district should allow such a lovely building such as this to be wrapped in so much modern addition.
I mean, the goal of just creating more housing in town.
Financial, too.
Yeah, well, it creates more functional apartment layouts, floor by floor, and that's really it's the goals of the project. And we tried. We talked about potentially pushing this on Atkinson Street, kind of pushing that in a little bit to kind of leave that kind of like how we did on Concept 2 on State Street, where we pushed in that second floor. Kind of make it feel like it's not completely kind of wrapping around the full building there. So we feel like that's more successful with Concept 2 on State Street. And there was some, we talked about potentially doing that same thing with the second floor here, so you start to get that sort of terracing around the historic building as opposed to completely wrapping around the sides of it.
I mean, there are still sort of the general ideas of making any modern addition be at secondary, subservient, smaller, setback, lower roof line, those sort of rules. So, yes, Larry.
I would agree with what Margot just said. I think I feel like the historic building is swallowed, and I think part of that is because the additions look like additions, and in my mind, it begs the question, if I just look at the just simple example, the part where Domo is from the front of State Street, if that addition, instead of making it look like an addition, perhaps if that addition looks like a standalone house of its own, then perhaps the historic structure would not look swallowed. In other words, 2 houses abutting. And again, I'm not an architect, but I would echo 100% what you just said.
Martin?
Yeah, let's just talk about massing. I don't see swallowed. On the State Street side, I see deference. I see stepping back. There's deference. I don't know about the language. The language kind of strikes me as Art Deco, straight wall, comes up to like a little bit of a coping line, and then some railing, ship's railing. Gives me this sense that it's almost like an Art Deco addition. I'd say if you get the language right, and this is not I don't think the language is right, the State Street side, I think that it is considering the the traditional buildings, the school on the right, the existing federal on the left. Now, when we come to Atkinson Street, it's a different story. I think it would be nice to see that step back a little more. The language should simply be as polite and non-existent as possible. It shouldn't be a statement unto itself. It should really just fade off in the distance as much as possible. The massing on Atkinson Street is the only thing that concerns me. On State Street, I think it's deferential, and I think it is tactful and considerate of the context it's trying to fit into.
Are you referring to Concept 2 specifically?
I'm considering page 13.
Yeah, that's Concept 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Which is more successful in
Yes.
that approach there. So I think playing off of that more and looking at where these points are and how these patterns and details come into play, I think will help.
Yeah, the ganged windows, that's not helping.
Yeah.
Simple as possible.
Yeah, that was just kind of carrying up what was there, but sort of eliminate that middle one even.
Yeah.
Just pair it, yeah.
Make it more traditional.
Remember, this isn't a row like Basil Richardson's building or the building next to it, Levy's building next to that. This is not a section of a streetscape. This is a freestanding building. It was meant to be, a freestanding building, and the little cottage that was built next to it was built in deference to it as a freestanding building. And what we're creating now is a little, trying to make a row building out of it using pasteboard materials. I don't see the delicacy. I don't see anything grand about it. I don't see where we're going. I may be poisoned by the thing that Lisa DiStefano put on it, that I thought covered up as much of the building as was allowable at the time, which is why the pieces are held back, pushed back, and dropped down. That was on purpose. It wasn't that they ran out of 2x4s.
We get it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I understand and appreciate wanting to get more interior space out of this building, and certainly more housing is a wonderful thing to have. Yeah, I mean, my opinion is this building already has the additions that it can handle. I am concerned about the neighboring building being totally dwarfed and kind of hidden by any second story addition that's on that, and really just kind of blocked out. I mean, it's as well as not covering up any more of the brick building and any more of its windows or anything like that. It really does speak well now as a standalone building. In my opinion, the only place where you could really add some massing is on State Street, way back, kind of like behind the window of the little house next door, and on Atkinson Street, again, set back so that at least that first row of windows on the brick building is still are still visible. And at that point, it's probably not worth the cost of construction for you guys just to add those little blips. So
yeah, that window is really what she thinks it's a fire safety concern, having that window there, but they added illegally, so she wants to cover it up.
It's not really the window that's there, it's just even the whole, number two is better because it's set back a little bit, but it's still covering up a lot of that that little building, which again is just it's so close. And so to pull another big wall there, I would want to see, I don't know what the setback rules are. I don't know how far away you have to build the meeting wall there or whatever, but.
Yeah, I mean, she's allowed to build right on the property line.
Yeah.
And they aren't allowed to have windows on the property line.
Right. No, and I understand that. That's kind of it's a scary thing to have a window right there. But.
They have to be fireproof windows.
Right.
Which they are there now.
Yeah.
So, but even still, it's that front slope of the roof that I wouldn't want to see have another wall come out in front.
Yeah, we were struggling with that. We looked at
Yeah.
something that matched that roof and just
No,
looked silly.
you don't have to do that. It's just because you want it to stand out as
Right.
its own thing.
Yeah, but it's whether you can push this in and leave a gap there
Yeah.
and still get back behind that ridge even.
So so I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the amount of addition as well. And so yes, John.
I want to go back to where Larry was a while ago with the State Street side, and thinking that if you pulled that forward and, kept two windows, if you got rid of the ganged triple windows and just had two single windows, that, to me, that would look acceptable. Looks like something that might have been there. It looks acceptable with all traditional finishes. Atkinson Street, I really don't know. Unfortunately, on the second story one that you showed has some sort of bizarre thing that you hiccuped onto it.
It's the same as concept one.
I think you're even thinking of making that ephes. I think you were thinking this could be stucco there. On page 13? Well, what is that then?
That's just a blip on the
Oh, is that
software.
Oh, that was a mistake in the software?
There was something else there, and then it got trimmed out. But we were trying to figure out a way to screen more of the mechanical equipment, but we didn't get into materials on that.
All right. I think Atkinson Street is more trouble.
So on state, are you in concept 1 or 2? 11 or 13 page? Are you
on state?
Yeah, on the State Street you had mentioned with the right material use and window proportioning.
Well, I like 13 showing the two windows.
Okay.
On the original brick building.
Okay.
Yeah. It's too bad there wasn't. It looks like you have a door on concept 1. Is that going to be a separate storefront? Is that a separate door?
Oh, that's
Entry for the apartments.
Oh no, this was
No?
You have a door there, right there.
Yeah, that was moving the restaurant entry to over here in that option.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, concept 2 kind of kept the entry where it was and the windows the way they are. Concept 1, we looked at moving the entrance over into here so we actually have a vestibule, which is one thing she struggles with in here.
What is it? What is she troubling with?
In the winter, when this door opens, this table's all around.
Oh, it's freezing.
It's freezing. So,
yeah.
So if she could kind of reposition, because she wants to actually extend the bar in the bigger space and then get rid of the lounge bar, and that. So this would become more the entry sequence into the old structure, which I like the idea of.
Yeah. Well, you could, I don't know. I'm sorry. Just keep going.
Well, it seems to be like, we've gotten feedback from all of us. I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you want to go forward?
Yeah, we'll continue. Yeah.
More stuff.
Some are, yeah.
Motion to continue to next month.
Second.
All right. All in favor? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. All right, we're going to go back to 377 Maplewood. Is that right here? Okay. I'll read this in again. Work session requested by Kevin Shitan Zhang, Revocable Trust of 2017, owner, for property located at 377 Maplewood Avenue, wherein permission is requested to allow the demolition of the rear structure on the lot and the new construction of a detached accessory dwelling unit as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 141 as Lot 22 and lies within the General Residence A and Historic Districts. Hi.
Hi. Derek Durbin, for the record. I'm the attorney for the owner of the properties. Normally, I wouldn't appear before the HDC for almost anything. Normally before the zoning board and planning board, but tonight I'm a sit-in for the owner who owns the Bamboo Restaurant downtown, so he's working at the moment. Brendan McNamara should be zoomed in. He is our designer on the project. So
He's
back
still in Australia?
He is in Australia, so he is appearing.
This is crazy.
Brendan, are you here?
Appearing virtually with us.
I am here. Can you hear me okay?
You're a little quiet,
You're a little quiet.
but I don't know if that's
Okay.
on our end or yours.
Can they up my mic a bit?
Good.
Is that okay now?
Yes, you're good now. Better.
Okay. Derek, do you want me to just jump in?
That's fine if you want to. Sure.
Oh, well, you can.
I can give a
perhaps you
quick
could just talk about the
background.
fact that the board has seen this property before.
Yeah, I don't know if
We
you know.
looked at this.
Is this the same, Brendan, is this the same plan as you presented a couple of years ago?
No, that was, I don't think I've presented one for this. It was somebody else, and they were trying to do a second dwelling unit, but it didn't address the parking and vehicle maneuverability issues, and it was ultimately rejected at the Board of Adjustment.
Okay, thank you.
So then Kevin came, I looked at this property years and years ago and had recommended what we have before us now, which is doing an ADU. It still has substantial variance issues associated with it, but it's a more diminutive approach, and it addresses the vehicle maneuverability issues. And it also steps into the possibility of doing an ADU in Portsmouth. Do you want me to just jump in on the presentation then?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Sure.
Okay. So it's a replacement of an existing, we'll call it a workshop structure at the rear, which I think you may or may not have reviewed, but it's, it's actually a nice old building, but it's in horrible shape. And it's close to falling down. So this is a proposal whereby the existing structure is demolished, and we build a new structure, which is an accessory dwelling unit with a garage. The intention is to reflect the aesthetic appearance of the existing utilitarian building, so it has a sense of being a utilitarian building secondary to the principal dwelling unit. And essentially, we wanted to, fly this flag and see what you guys thought about it. That, the intention to the primary dwelling unit also does definitely need some renovation works, which would ultimately be part of this whole building project. But we wanted to get a sense of the HDC's thoughts on this ADU approach.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, so Brendan, the size of the ADU floor space, just looking at one of the initial pages here, it looks like the footprint is a little bit smaller, but not much. Height-wise, can you tell me about the height of the dwelling unit versus the ridgepole of the primary structure?
It would be slightly higher. It's a smaller building. It's more concentrated. The existing building kind of wanders over the property at the moment. So it's been brought into a more compact footprint shape. But yes, the height of the ridge would end up being higher than the existing building because it's the geometry of the main gable on the existing building is smaller than that's proposed.
I think I have the same question that I had the last time this came forward, which is if something's planned for the primary dwelling unit, I would really like to see both at the same time, because these two buildings are intended to relate to each other, and one is supposed to be subservient to the other, and if I don't know what's happening with the first one, how am I to reasonably judge the second one?
Fair comment, and we can certainly, on the next visit, we can show that approach on the primary building, but it would definitely be a renovation of the existing building with minimal changes to it, other than trying to restore it to its original traditional appearance.
I'm very glad to hear that you have something planned in terms of restoration of the primary structure. I've been crying over the deterioration over the past 4 years.
I think the owner has been too.
I drive past it every day.
Anybody else? on massing, on the idea of replacing the existing structure? Any thoughts?
I'll jump in and say, to me, it's a no-brainer. The thing that's there, however charming it is, and however it might appear as a nice little dependency, is past its due. I don't see how it even makes sense to try to fix it. And I'm a person that frequently finds myself thinking that it makes sense to try to fix things. It seems like a very concise design that you're proposing. Only thing is nothing to do with our purview. It's just, I caution you, I don't know this. You probably play a lawyer on TV.
Or an
I don't.
architect tonight.
But I'd be very concerned about your setbacks.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm hoping that you've manicured them, because to me, they're scary.
No, that's kind of my wheelhouse, and that is something that has been part of the consideration. When this went before the zoning board in 2020, it was ultimately denied because of the ingress-egress issue with cars basically having to back out into the right-of-way. That was the big issue, from my recollection of the public hearing. Less with the setbacks. This will actually bring it in even closer than what we had before, meaning that we'll have greater setback space to the boundaries than what we had previously proposed and actually what exists now. So it should represent an improvement overall. Where we've run into issues is that this is well over on building coverage on the property, and we still need setback relief. So we got to go back before the ZBA regardless of decreasing the overall nonconformity of the property. So,
Well, thank you very much.
yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Actually, if it's probably worth just going back to the proposed site plan, because on that I sort of blacked in the corners of the existing building.
Yep, which
You
is
can see
a
the
lot closer
little
to
hatch
the-
lines. You can see how, it's, in some places it's just moved, the existing building is really close. And so we've improved those non-conforming conditions, but also there's that area of the building that sort of has been built into that rear sort of nub of the lot, which that's another area of substantial reduction in area.
It looks like there's a whole lot more to this little building than what you can see from the street by looking at your footprint marks. So
Yeah.
it actually looks like the proposed footprint is in total a lot smaller than what's existing.
But could I make
It is probably about half the size of what's there.
Yeah.
The existing building is probably, my guess is that there's, it's 4 structures. There was like an original building. They did a little addition to the right of it. Then there was I think it was likely that there was it was a freestanding building at the rear that then they connected. So it's kind of just grown and filled the lot over time.
something like that? I would just like to say that as far as the building goes, I mean, I'm accepting of your design for the ADU. There's no problem with that. I think that the size of it, you're showing cars, and there again, this isn't in our purview. I mean, there's no, in the wintertime, it's just not gonna work. You got 2 nicely fitted cars right in there, very nice. So I'm almost thinking that we shouldn't be looking at this at the time, except for to maybe make comments on the ADU, and wait till they come back from planning and maybe the Board of Adjustment and say, oh, we've got permission to do this.
Yeah, I don't know what you're thinking the timeline is. It doesn't.
Well, that was the intention, was to get the sense that it was seemed, as a general concept, it seemed okay to you guys, and then Derek will then go, if that's found to be the case, then Derek would then go to the BOA before coming back to you again.
Okay.
I can accept the general concept.
Yeah, me too, yeah. I think it's a great little design. I don't necessarily need to have it be subservient to the main house. And as for like that parking condition, this just reminds me of the community we have under the 95 bridge. the name escapes me right now.
Atlantic Heights.
Atlantic Heights is full of these conditions.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
And people live and function and get by and,
Not for us
so
to say, though.
it has my, as a start, it has my approval.
I mean, I'm going to go along with my fellow commissioners here, and I like the design. I wasn't here when you had the problem before about backing onto the street and all that, but I see you got 18 and a half feet there, and I mean, that sounds like plenty of room even for like 2 SUVs to spin around in your turnaround area. So
One garage door is 9 feet,
is what?
9 feet wide.
Right.
So that's like 2 garage doors right next to each other.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, this is not for me
Yeah,
to
that's
talk
not
about.
our-
This
No,
is-
I know. I'm just saying. I think I like your design, and I
Yeah,
think you've
I do
tried to
too.
make it fit in. So.
But it's awfully tight.
Great, well, I think you've got, I feel positive about it. I think you've got full support of your concept here, so good luck at the ZBA.
Yes.
Great.
Tell them
Thank
that
you very much.
We're
It's your
happy
thing.
about it, so.
Okay. Yeah, I hope so. CBA is
All
a
right.
rough road to travel.
Okay.
Okay, so do you want this continued?
I suppose so.
It's a
I
work
think that
session?
probably makes sense. I think we'll probably try to move forward relatively quickly on the ZBA side of things, but some of that also depends on, we're going to have a more fine-tuned site plan as well, and I'm not sure how long that's going to take to obtain.
Okay, great. Well,
Motion to continue to next month?
Thank you.
You can always postpone.
Thanks, Brendan.
All right.
Second?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good.
All
What
right.
time is it there, Brendan?
9 a.m.
What's that, sorry?
What time is it where you are?
It's like the middle of the day, middle of winter. Which, but it's a cold 55 degrees today, so it's not too bad.
Oh, well, have a
Well,
Foster's.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See ya.
Do we want to talk, we wanted to have that quick discussion about administrative approvals. Do we want to just stay here? Is that okay with everyone?
Let's just see.
I might need to get a pencil or something, just so I can. So, again, we just, with the whole solar panel thing brought up issues of our admin approvals. And, we were looking at it. I had a couple meetings with the planning department, the legal department, and as we were going through all this, we were looking at what the language actually says in the ordinance and in our rules, which are a little bit loose around admin approvals. And I just wanted to kind of go back. Originally, we started off with a consent agenda that I think Nick implemented at one point.
We'll blame it all on you.
And at some point, the name consent agenda, I don't know why, switched to administrative approval, which it's still the same thing. It's still these, smaller projects that don't necessarily rise to the level of importance to have a full-grown public hearing, but are sort of put in a list that Nick and now Isaac check over with the applicants. And then it's essentially still what we have is a consent agenda that we look through and then vote on. And I think initially there weren't really any rules about it other than Nick was just kind of trying to weed them out so that our meetings could get shorter. Eventually it got written into the ordinance that it's really meant for larger projects that had been approved but needed to come back for minor changes that didn't need, again, a full public hearing. However, there was still mixed in there some smaller projects that, again, didn't need a full public hearing, but there are no real written parameters in our rules, and so it's still just kind of a judgment call by the planning department as to which applications get to be administrative approval and which applications need to be a public hearing. So what I wanted to have a discussion here with is just to kind of confirm amongst ourselves what projects we think rises to public hearing need, and which could we try to codify or, again, make a list for, that would qualify for administrative approval. And again, all of our projects are different and subjective and
That's it.
different in size, and we can't, so it's, but I think that if we can put some sort of rules and parameters around it, we leave ourselves a little bit less vulnerable to challenges from somebody who said, a neighbor or something who said, this wasn't properly noticed, I didn't know about it, I should have known about it. Or if it's a project that comes up under administrative approval that probably should have been a public hearing, we talk about it, we make some changes, and then it's, again, a very sort of loose, weird thing. So, right now yes, so I'm just
I know
putting.
you are.
What would you like to say, John?
I would like to say we've been doing it this way for 8 years or so. Have the decisions that we made, are they legal decisions? Have they been brought forward to us? Have we had people saying, this shouldn't have been on an administrative approval? What I'm saying is you have created this problem in your own mind, and I don't feel it exists.
I don't think it's just me.
I think it's you with the planning board and getting together with Chelman, and I just don't see it as a real problem. I see what we're doing now works.
It does
That's
work.
what I see.
I would like to say this was also raised by our legal department. This is not just the planning department, the planning board, or Reagan or myself. This is a legal question that has been asked that we dissect a little bit further. So
Because there aren't strict rules about it. There are strict rules and definitions around these things for the other land use boards, but not for ours.
Right.
And so to put a better framework around them will have us on better legal footing.
We used to have a monetary figure back in the consent agenda, and it was $50,000. Anything that was over $50,000. So when these large buildings come in with about 20 different changes in them, obviously that shouldn't be an AA.
Well, I think to call a horse, okay? Today's Seacoast Online, the whole thing about the solar panels, that's where this whole thing came from, I believe, with administrative approvals. And again, I'm the new guy here. But I think the whole thing that we developed, not as it was reported in Seacoast Online, but the thing that we developed to try to streamline the solar panel process for the betterment of Portsmouth and the citizens of Portsmouth was, okay, if your project meets these criteria, minimally visible, did I say that right? Minimally visible, it's hard to say right now, it's 10 o'clock. Minimally visible, then you don't need to come before us. You automatically get approved. So I think, what Isaac and, our chairwoman are doing is exactly in line with streamlining the process and making it more legally coherent.
Well, and I'll just say from being in many meetings, there have often been times where somebody in our commission has said either, why is this administrative approval? It should be a full public hearing. Or, why is this a public hearing? It should have been an administrative approval. So if we can have a clearer definition, we won't have those moments. Sorry, Dave.
To that very point, I will say, you're never going to fix that.
No.
And we have judgment issues. Hopefully I said that right. Isn't the underlying problem all through this, though, the notification of abutters?
Yes.
So that's the call that we can't really fix, because my problems with administrative approvals is sometimes I'm not in whole agreement with them. I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, even though it might seem it to others, or I would like to have a larger conversation about it. That is simple. I just say, I think we should pull this one, and I've never had anyone look at me and say, Dave, you've got two heads, other than maybe once in a while. But it's not, I don't think that's the problem. I don't think we have to legislate our way out of that one.
No.
But as far as covering someone's ass over notification, I don't know how you fix that one.
Well, I think, there are simple ways that we can start out with this, certainly is, again, leave in obviously the criteria that it is a previously approved project, is coming back for minor changes, blah, 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 that's fine. The other thing that we commonly see for admin approvals are mechanical units,
Porches.
Sorry?
Porches.
Fences, minor things like that. So I don't, these are things that we could define and say, minor applications such as the addition of mechanical equipment, the addition or replacement of a fence, the,
Set of steps.
this, yeah,
Porches.
right, replacement of, small porch steps or something like that could be in a list so that it's clearly there.
Although, can I say, I think we, and I don't mean this nicely about the community in general, but I think we have the biggest problems with fences and mechanical equipment. I don't think I've ever had anyone stop me on the street and say, Jesus, you approved that mechanical equipment. It's never happened.
Agreed.
So, not to give him too much wind in his sails, but I think Mr. Wyckoff's right about that part. But again, I think the ultimate thing is who makes the final call, and I think that you're just going to have to be fallible.
There's also language that we could consider putting in too about how generally the call of what applications can be moved through a briefer administrative approval process is, subject to both the planning department and chair or something like that, so that there is some sort of statement in there, some sort of, I don't know if that's legally found with this, we all have to run this by legal as well. But somewhere in there, just to really clarify this, because you're right. And we've had this discussion that it's us. We want to know, not the public. We want to know what is going on so that when you're walking by and you see work being done in a house and you're like, hey, wait a second, we didn't approve that, that it is, we see what's being covered generally by.
If there's a problem in the historic district, we see it.
Yep.
And it bears on us more than any other thing.
Exactly.
I mean, the problem's always going to be, we let that happen. Rather than someone telling me, Dave, you shouldn't have let that happen. It just doesn't go that way. For my part, anything that you felt with legal that could tighten up the language would be fine. I don't feel like I've been cut out of anything. I think that, like Mr. Wyckoff, I think what we've been doing works. I have no problem with you changing it, but I don't feel like we need to change anything for us, and I, once again, think we're the problem.
I think you're right. I think that it's.
I mean that nicely.
Yeah. No,
nicely.
I understand, and I think one of the things we're trying to do here is just define what we're already doing. Even make it clearer.
We could look over the last 5 years' worth of admin approvals, and that's our list.
Yeah.
I think the other advantage, if we can cut down on what ends up being in the admin approval or consent agenda, whatever word you want to use, if we can narrow that down, then we can ask a little bit more of what comes to us. Because the biggest problem I have with these admin approvals, and what very often makes them run on and on, is that the package we ask is not sufficient. What we require is not sufficient. So we end up guessing, the applicant isn't here, we go back and forth among ourselves trying to solve a problem when there's no applicant to even answer the question. So if we had a smaller number of those approvals and we asked for, we made clearer what we expect in the application for an admin approval, I think we would shorten the amount of time we have to spend on them.
I think Mr. Ryan's correct. I think that we'll say 2 people, and I don't care who, go through the last 5 years of admin approvals. Shouldn't take that long. And pull out the 10 examples that you think are on the edge of things, and we'll bring those back as a, let's do something about these. I think studying what we've been doing, I think you're absolutely right, rather than being hypothetical about it. Studying what we've actually been doing would be the best way out of it. Once again, I think we're the people that are most rubbed raw by these things. So I don't see how I could be wrong, but I don't think that we would run into a problem trying to fix our perception of the problem.
And I think to the extent that we manage to explain or define this more clearly, gets a little bit to solving the problem of public notice, because now the public knows that they're not going to get notice on
Right.
these things, the exemptions, and these other
Oh,
items.
yes,
And-
expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So, because I don't know how often you would know, how often do you field questions from the public of people who call up and say, you know, why is this happening, or I didn't see this approved?
On occasion, we'll have a curious neighbor go, hey, I see my neighbor's putting in a, AC condenser. What's up with that? Oh, well, that was an admin approval last month's meeting. They've got a screening stipulation. Okay, meet setbacks, great.
But more often it's us.
But more than often, it's you guys. So.
And if something's replaced, then Isaac in kind, the tonight's clapboard thing was a bad example, but if something's replaced in kind, then it wouldn't even meet that threshold, right?
Right. By the way, that AC unit is still sitting on the roof, perched on the roof down on Bow Street, right across from the Moffett Lad.
Yes.
Yeah, that got postponed, so.
All right. That's not the
Rain,
one on
that's
the
a
deck.
different-
I'm talking about the one that's on the roof of the building next door.
I think the other thing we learned from the Marcy Street clapboard debacle is the level of expectation and communication when somebody comes in for a like-kind approval. Maybe,
Particularly with people that don't know what they're talking about.
I mean, I think I didn't. The gentleman seemed to be mostly a painter, as opposed to a restoration carpenter, which he clearly was not. And so I think he got in over his head. But I think whether it's the document that somebody's given that says, okay, you have approval to do this, but this is what replacement in kind means, and you need to come back if you discover this or that. And replacement in kind doesn't just mean the material. It means how it was installed and that sort of thing. So I don't know, Isaac, to what extent we can improve some of the language around those sorts of approvals so that people at least can't say, well, I didn't know that I needed to come back.
And again, this brings us back around to some of the improvements we need to do in our guidelines, because that's something that should be in our guidelines, which probably a painter who's making that application is not going to look at, but at least we do have it written down somewhere that, this is, and maybe it's a one-pager that Isaac can hand out. Or
I'd like to volunteer to do something on clapboards because I don't think in general it's a common understanding.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody thinks they know what they are, but I don't think it's that common. And I certainly don't appreciate I don't look forward to having an argument with any of the commissioners, Mr. Wyckoff indeed,
About what?
about what represents in-kind clapboarding. And I'd like to see if the commission could come to a better description of that other than what somebody might or might not think.
Well,
So you
happy
thinking
to.
that I was giving you an argument when I was actually complimenting you?
Ooh, I'm certain you were giving me an argument.
No,
but-
I wasn't.
Really?
I was complimenting you. I was saying every time that you give these little talks, I always learn something, and it's true. I always learn something from what you're saying.
I sense this may not be the appropriate place to
Yeah,
do this.
okay.
I just didn't think that we were on the same page.
Yeah,
I would appreciate you volunteering to do that, and I
will
think
do
that
so.
we can.
I will do so. It's not that hard. I
Take
picked some pictures. I
take
can put a
the,
little brochure together.
Well, I was going to say, take the chapter that's in our guidelines mark it up, let's fix it, let's.
I just think, as we've been trying to get more sensitive about roofing materials in my time, I think it's high time that we got more sensitive about clapboards before they're all gone, before everything looks like it was built at Elwood Park.
Have you ever thought about putting a series together of lectures?
Don't do that.
Lectures?
I did for 30 years, 40 years. I used to travel around the countryside.
Well,
You could do a stream of TED Talks.
Actually, if you put it on YouTube, I'd watch it. I really would. I think you could fill an auditorium up.
I used to.
We also have talked
Really
about
think an
having.
auditorium would listen to
A
us?
small auditorium.
We've
A small one.
We've also talked about,
We'll serve
and
drinks.
have had in the past, window workshops. There's no reason why we shouldn't have clapboard workshops to go along with it. So, and that's something that we can do. We have money in the CIP to improve and update our guidelines, for which I would like to also write a whole new chapter on sustainability things, and more than just solar panels, so we can move forward with doing some very pointed updates to our guidelines, and I think that would go a long way. So, okay, thank you. I don't know where I got on that, but we're going to
You didn't
work on
write
that.
anything down?
I didn't, but
Fences,
we're going to
mechanical.
go back and review some of our admin approvals. Is there? I can't remember if there's anything else. It looks like the second reading of our solar panel amendment is coming next Monday to City Council, and then the actual public hearing will be July. So I haven't gotten any final language or revision as how it's all written up, but I'll send it out as soon as I do. And so, and obviously with our discussion here tonight, we do not have a third meeting this month, so. Because our normal schedule would have us meeting in July on July 3rd, which is the fireworks night.
Oh, yeah,
Can't
we
do that.
Can't do that.
So
Nope.
it's going to be pushed to the next week. It's the 10th?
The 10th, and then I do have the unfortunate news. We already have 7 returning public hearing items from these past 2 meetings on the draft agenda. Therefore,
Stuff we just kicked out.
it's only logical to think we will have a second meeting. Sure. As we haven't hit our deadline date yet.
Sounds good.
So moved?
Okay, thank you.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Have a good night.
David, if I was going to